Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to the beginning of yet another season here at Daytona International Super Speedway. I'm Andre Grambush, joined alongside Corey Silva, and of course producer Carlos Acosta, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. It is a nice sunny day in sim here at Daytona. There's a lot of new faces and some returning drivers ready to duke it out here at this historic, wide-open raceway. Corey, first of all, good to have you back. We worked with you quite a bit last season, and looking forward to doing so again this year. But man, oh man, we saw a lot of action in the Clash, and you weren't there for that, Corey. So to kind of catch you up on that, the Clash already started to get this season off on quite an interesting note. Some rivalries beginning to form. Some teams actually kind of shifted around after the Clash due to some things that happened. But, that's in the past. It's the first points-paying race of the year. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Andre, happy to be here with you guys here on 3 Wide for another season. And as you said, I should be here quite a bit between helping you out and on PTR as well. But yeah, the Clash, just as in real life, brought out some rivalries, brought out some frustration. It lets you know, if there's newcomers into the series, how do they race? And just looking down the roster, Andre, we have a lot of familiar faces. Probably about 2/3 of the lineup to be a familiar face, but a good amount of new drivers on different teams, and all of which need to kind of gain their respect amongst the regulars, and we'll see how that all fares out over the 500.
And it is an interesting start to the year with this new Coliseum race that they seem to be making into a bit of a tradition now, because really you're going from the shortest track on the circuit, which literally is just barely bigger than a football field, short, tight racing, and then you come here, and it's wide open, huge racing facility, completely different style of racing, and you got to adjust to that. You got to go from that short track mindset, that aggressiveness, to maybe more of a tactical mindset here, trying to figure out who you're going to work with, what kind of teammates can you find, and when are you going to make your moves when it comes to the draft and all of that good stuff. So definitely a change of pace for sure for these drivers. But the duels, which were not broadcast, were, I would say, a good learning experience for these guys. And it is nice that they do still do these duel races so that we're not coming into this race completely blind. These guys did get some practice. And that's good, because these cars do handle a little bit differently. They do behave differently in the draft, and there is a ton of little nuances, I would say. It's not like they're driving a completely different car from last year, but as well as I do, Corey, iRacing loves to tweak just little things here and there, and it can take a while to get up to speed with them.
Yeah, I think even since the 500 last year, they did do some aero changes that drastically affected how the draft works, where you'll see a lot more side drafting. You'll see a lot more ring around the wall. I would not be surprised if there's a good 50, 60 laps of this race that we are just kind of killing laps, running against the fence. So all that definitely going to come into effect here. But coming to a conclusion here on the warm-up session, of course, qualifying was done yesterday, so that grid has already been set. So everybody get your popcorn, get your drinks, because we are going to have a long night of racing here, and we'll be getting it off in just a few moments.
Yeah, we are going to be heading towards the grid in no time at all. A few interesting storylines for tonight. Robert Miller in the number 15. He's currently 9th in practice. He's had a roller coaster of an offseason. Initially, his plan was that he was going to be full-time, and he was fairly confident in that. Last year, being in the Air Force, he got sent on some missions and had a lot of flying to do that took him away from the sim rig. So he's only able to really compete part-time. And this year he said, you know what, I'm going full-time. And then about a week before the race, he got a call, hey, we got a mission for you. And he said, oh, I can't race Daytona. We might be another part-time year. Well, that got canceled. So last minute, he went to the admin and said, hey, I know I told you I wasn't going to be there, but can I race? They said, yep, you're still good. You've still got your spot. So he's here. We do have the starting grid of the race. Now, this was set by the duels as opposed to the front row, which was set by qualifying speed. Jason Baker takes the pole for the Daytona 500 in that number 51, and it is Lucas Voitsma in the 07 to his outside, trying to make something happen. Behind them, you got Alexander Russell, and you have Kevin Steele, a previous Daytona 500 winner. If you remember, just a couple years ago, that dramatic finish where Kevin was able to get through some chaos and take home the Daytona trophy. Patrick Muchet in the number 17 is going to be rolling off the grid 5th in that free Bryson Hickson-Baugh machine. Jonathan Delaney, the reigning series champion, to his outside in P6. Cameron Stone, a former series champion and a pretty confident plate racer, is going to be rolling off P7 with Matt White to his outside. Now, those two are no strangers to each other. They work together pretty well, and I would expect to see them link up pretty quick. Rounding out your top 10 is going to be Jim Schofield and Jeremy Miller.
Yep. And then Chris James rolling off P11 with Boyd Hagen to his outside in the 12th spot. 13th, just waiting for it to scroll by, Robert Anderson with Ralph Hutchison, big competitor last season, in a new ride this season. We have Sean O'Brien in 15th, trying to make up the details here, Clayton Hoffman in 16th, Dalton Mobley in 17th, Brandon Pierce in 18th, and then rounding out your 19th and 20th spots, Adam Benefiel and Dylan Kritz.
And just outside the top 20, we've got Tanner Marty and Robert Miller, 21-22. And it looks like 23 is going to be Keneally in the 43 machine. And then we have Mike Christopher filling in for Blake Giglio. The first race of the year. We've already got a fill-in, ladies and gentlemen. But Michael Christopher filling in for the number 16. And then a little bit further back, Cody Bird making his league return. He had told us that he was retired. He wasn't coming back. Then somebody came to him with a contract, and he said, all right, we're getting back in. So the number 13 rides again, rolling off 25th. Jason Taylor to his outside. Mark Patchett, 27th. 28th is going to go to Alex Vandesant. 29 and 30 goes to Devin Medeiros and Sammy Board.
All right, and quickly we have Kyle Lamb 31st, Matt Long 32nd, Drumhill 33rd, Nolan Hodgson 34th, Justin Hill 35th, Christopher Hammond 36th, Alex Princeton, Alex Murray, RJ Root, and Damaris Hickenbottom 39th and 40th. The pace car is going to take that hard left into the pits. The Daytona 500 underway for the 100% Cup Series into the Geico restart zone. Barney the flagman gets that green flag in his hand, waves it, and we're racing at Daytona.
Now, I find it an interesting choice. Our pole sitter actually opted for the outside lane as opposed to the inside. So maybe feeling a little bit more confident up there. Maybe he likes the drivers that were going to be lined up on the top side, and that influenced his decision. But the bottom lane is getting a pretty good run through turns 1 and 2. Lucas Hoisman just about half a car length advantage with the help of that 27 machine pushing him down the back straightaway for the first time. We are still 2 by 2 all the way to the back. There is no single file in sight. And look at this run. Kevin Steele in the number 7. Yet another number change for the league administrator. The third number he has run. And he is going to give a healthy shove to that 51, get him the advantage as they come to the trial with complete lap 1. And it is going to be Baker in that 51 that is going to take the first lap lead, although there's a lot more laps and a lot more drivers, Corey, who are looking to lead them.
Yeah, indeed. We did see a couple drivers on the back straightaway choose to pull to the inside and just kind of remove themselves from their starting spots and to play it safely, which can't necessarily refute that logic here because a lot can happen in about 4 hours of racing to decide it. But up front, it looks like the 51 of Baker still up there to the outside. He had the opportunity to drop down and clear, but he is maintaining that partnership with Steele to the outside. That does allow the inside to get that surge with the 07 and the 27 of Russell giving him the shove. But as you said, pace lap formation almost to a T. Perfect formation side by side throughout the majority of the field.
Yeah, it is a really impressive feat to be able to get a car lined up like that so far all the way back. I mean, so many cars in a line, and there's not a whole lot of weaving going on despite the relatively low visibility. So they are doing a heck of a job keeping those cars going in the right direction and trying to remain stable. But Kevin Steele actually abandons that top line, drops down in front of that free Bryson Hickson-Baugh number 007 of Lucas Hoisman. He is going to take the lead, but can he lead this lap? We're going to find out as that 51 starting to lose some time. He's got John Delaney on his rear bumper, generally a very capable pusher, but not quite getting the run as they head towards the trialable. Kevin Steele looks to lead a lap in the Daytona 500 with the help of Lucas Hoisman. 27 still in line there. Patrick Muchet in the number 17. He has been pretty patient, I would say, right now. I'm seeing a lot of bump drafting going on, but Patrick is giving the car ahead a little bit of space, not trying to get too aggressive too early, and I like that. Aggression is fun to watch and it's fun to see, but maybe a little bit of patience is also pretty valuable, especially this early into the event. We're on lap 4 out of 200, so a ton of racing to go. But one thing I'm noticing there, Corey, is that outside line is just ever so slowly starting to fade. They've got the numbers. There's a ton of cars up there. Bottom lane just inching forward lap after lap.
Yeah, and that's one of the changes that iRacing did make over the course of the 2022 campaign, is they did kind of reprogram the drafting model to where numbers really does matter. It doesn't matter whether you're top or bottom. 11 cars to the top, 10 cars to the bottom. The top should prevail as long as the drivers are coordinated, in a good manner, and they're not all spaced out. It does look like both lines are indeed working together quite nicely, but as you said, the inside just seeming to prevail. Now that could be setups. You could have some of these drivers having setups that are better to push than to lead. Could very well be the case. Could just be a matter of patience and trying to work yourself to the back. Remember, we do have 2 stages. First one will be at lap 65, so there will be a pit stop at some point during the stage. Be interesting to see if these guys do it on the earlier end or the later end, but still a lot of learning and just kind of getting the ebbs and flows of the race and figuring out how you want to play it out.
And I tell you what, I think Kevin Steele knows exactly how he wants to play this race out. He knows that he's capable of winning. He's done it before, and that confidence does a lot for a driver, both when you're doing well and when you're further back in the grid. I think Kevin decided, you know what, I got a good qualifying position. I'm going to try to get out front, and I'm going to stay there. I'm going to make sure that I can get out front, maybe grab myself another Daytona 500, add that to my belt. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, anything can happen at these races, and you can lead every single lap up until the last one, but it is only that last lap that matters. So, very fast car. We know the number 7 is good, but again, we're just going to have to wait and watch what transpires. It looks like these guys are still pretty formed up, but there are still stages in the league, as our producer is pointing out. So we are going to have some pauses, so to speak, some cautions thrown for stage 1 and stage 2. Stage 1 comes at lap 65, which I believe should be completely outside of the fuel window. There's no way they're going to go that far in a tank of gas. Tires are kind of irrelevant at this track. It doesn't really affect the handling too much. But fuel, I don't think you're going to get 65 laps. So what we're going to see, Corey, especially with stage 1 being at lap 65, is we're going to see quite a few green flag stops, presuming it does stay green. And Daytona, as we go to our onboard with Cameron Stone, he's got the webcam active right now. Got the Jeff Gordon poster in the background. But as I was saying, Daytona's got a very fun pit road entry. It's very open, it's all paved, very inviting for these drivers to try to scramble and get down pit road as fast as possible. And having a good or a bad pit stop could be make or break for some of these guys.
Yeah, you'll hear a lot on driver radio. Of course, most of these guys are in their own team channels, but you will hear them go over public radio and communicate with each other when it comes to pitting. Where are you going to go? Are you going to go all the way to the inside wall? Are you going to kind of stay in the middle? Are you going to stay closer to the yellow line? How are you going to funnel 7 lanes of action down to maybe 2, absolute 3 at most, funneling into pit road? So those are conversations that you have to have, and they don't always work out well, and somebody usually always gets the short end of the stick on that. So interesting to see how that does play out, as we do have the weather conditions on screen right now. Nothing really out of the ordinary, and 76 degrees in the air, 92 or so on the track. Low humidity, about a 10-mile-an-hour wind, so could kind of play into effect with some of the top speeds and on each end of the speedway. But closing in on lap number 10 on the board here, and Kevin Steele in that number 7, still in command of the lead. Looks like the top lane starting to shrink down as more of these drivers starting to just kind of, as we like to say, just turn some laps and kill some laps off, knowing that it's a long race, knowing that the stage is still a ways off. So we're going to start to see more and more of these drivers just kind of single file out and just kind of ride along.
And I'm glad you mentioned the conditions a little bit there. The wind right now being 8 miles an hour, that's not insignificant. That actually can affect the handling of the car, especially here on iRacing. And the other thing is the track temp is 92 degrees right now, which is pretty warm, probably warmer than the track is actually going to be tomorrow for the real-life Daytona 500. And while the handling is not necessarily that important when you're on your own at Daytona, a hot track can make it very difficult to recover your car if it starts sliding. Well, how are you going to start sliding at a track like Daytona? Well, maybe you're a Kevin Steele. Maybe you've got Lucas Hoytsma behind you. Maybe he gives you a bump draft, and maybe your rear tires get lifted off the ground, and you're sideways. If the track is too hot, it's going to make saving that car very, very difficult. And I don't expect the temperatures to really go down at all. If anything, they may just go up, at least for the first stage. And then from there, maybe they even out or even go down. Stage 1's just going to get warmer, and so the handling conditions maybe not ideal, as we got a little bit of weaving there on the top line. Robert Anderson trying to make something happen, spearheading that outside line as Schofield, I guess I should have asked him before the race. I'm going to say Schofield is giving him a nice, healthy bump draft. And thank you, Carlos. Thank you for blurring the tachometer.
Oh, my God.
We're just trying to make sure this is the most accurate broadcast possible.
No, it's better. Oh, no, with the gyro cam, it's actually invading some of the actual view. So that is even realistic to the Fox broadcast.
Yes, it is.
In 2023, you're telling me we don't have AI tracking that can positionally just keep the sensor on the thing? Come on, technology, somebody go out there. As we have Cody Bird, I think he is first one to go a lap down. 3 wide funneling here. Back to the 40th spot, shotgun on the field. But Andre, 3 wide, obviously at Talladega, which is basically a 5-lane track. Not a big deal. Daytona, you will see these guys of high skill level run 3 wide, but it is definitely a scary situation, especially when you try to funnel down a whole pack of cars to get by a lap car in the middle of the corner.
Absolutely. And, from our perspective up in the booth, this track looks plenty wide to go 3 abreast, but unfortunately, when you're actually in the car, you start to realize how narrow the track really is, especially with that safer barrier cutting a few feet off the outside of the track. You get 3 wide and you start to feel a little bit boxed in, and things get really sketchy really quickly. So these guys did a good job to keep everything clean there. Really 2 wide, I would say, is about the maximum for comfort. You can go 3 or even 4 wide, but I wouldn't exactly call that comfortable. I'm a little bit baffled by what happened to Cody Bird. I'm not sure if he just tried to drop to the back of the pack and keep himself safe and then accidentally lost the draft, which then got him a lap down, or if he maybe somehow got damage early on that then slowed him down. But
I'll do a little bit of a background research for us while we check things out.
Yeah, kind of unusual to see somebody go a lap down so early in the Daytona 500. The car directly in front of him in terms of position is Damar Hickenbottom, who's currently running 39th, and he's still on the lead lap, and I believe he's still attached to this lead pack. So
yeah. I've already solved the mystery. So Cody Bird on lap 1, he was one of the drivers who pulled to the back on the apron, on the back straightaway, pulled to the back, and I think he just pulled back a little far. It looks like there may have been some connectivity issues, but yeah, he just pulled to the back, lost the draft, and that's it. Luckily for him, 185 laps and 2 automatic cautions, so still in good spot to at least get a free pass as long as we don't have any other issues, but a lot of time to answer those questions.
Yeah, he's got to make sure that he stays with either the lead pack or the second pack. He can't really afford to go a second lap down. If he can be the first car lap down, he's going to get that lucky dog when it comes to stage 1. But right now, he's just got to focus on speed. And we do have 2 packs starting to form, as we mentioned it. The lead pack starting to break away from the second pack, which you see at the bottom of the 3-wide TV multicam. The second pack is single file, probably the smart move to make if you're starting to fall back from the leaders. You're always going to be a little bit quicker single file and formed up than these guys will be 2 wide, because they're going to be side drafting, they're going to be slowing each other down. So that gives these guys the best chance at keeping with this lead pack. But it's going to be tough because the lead pack does have the numbers for sure. I mean, it's really only about 10 cars in this second pack, and then easily almost 20 or more in this lead pack. As we do have a new leader, just briefly, Robert Anderson gets a good shot up to the front. He's going to get half a car length advantage over Kevin Steele. Can he lead the lap, though? Getting a little bit squirrely. Aggressive bump drafting, and it is going to be Anderson leading a lap here at Daytona. But already here on lap 17, we're seeing some pretty aggressive bump drafting.
Yeah, and that would make me as a driver, I would be the one, whoa, and you can see here kind of tried to shut the door there on Kevin Steele, but Steele had enough of a run I think he's using the push from Lucas Hoitzma there, so that reopens the door for Steele to try to regain the lead. But, me as a driver, I would be pulled right to the back. Look at this kind of trio bump drafting, 547 and 82 on the top of the track caused them to clear. But me as a driver, I am dropping right to the tail end of this track. I'm a sissy. I want no part of this. And but these guys, they want the points, they want the lap sled, they want the bonus points, all that comes along with it, the TV time, all that fun stuff. So they're up and at it. But boy, I'll tell you, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Whenever it comes to a plate race, I always hang back for as long as reasonably possible. And I always try to make sure I keep myself close enough that, once it is go time, I can get on that accelerator and maybe start working my way through the grid, making some overtakes. But for the most part, I don't want to be in the thick of it. I want to let these guys battle it out and just kind of enjoy my front row seat from the back, eating my popcorn and enjoying the show. But these guys, man, they want to get a win. The 100% Cup Series has just grown every single year in competition, except for this year with the removal of Bryson Hixenbaugh. I would say the talent in the field with his removal overall has just plummeted. But mostly every year, the talent in the field has gone up and up and up, better and better drivers. And so when it comes to actually winning a championship, your best bet is to lock yourself in the playoff early. Make sure that you can use the majority of your season to kind of experiment, figure out what setups work, what you can do to get a bit of an advantage, and maybe try some things that you otherwise wouldn't if you weren't locked in and it didn't have that safety net. And if you can get a win at Daytona, that gives you the whole year to figure things out before the round of 16 starts, and that is so valuable I can't even put it into words. So these guys want that win, and if that to them means they got to be up front right now, well, then that is exactly what they're going to try to do, as they are still battling it out as hard as they possibly can. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Corey. I thought we were going to get single file within the first 10 laps. The fact that we're on lap 20 and we are still too wide, we're seeing passes for the lead just about every other lap, or we're seeing somebody try to take the lead every other lap. It really shows how hungry these guys are.
Yeah, because I can tell you, and we're pushing a year ago. It just shows how fast time has gone. But back on our channel, PTR TV, we covered the Talladega Spring Race, and me and my buddy Tyler Ord covered that race. And the first thing we noticed was, wow, these guys are really playing it easy and really being conservative. And here we are at the Daytona 500, where same distance into it, and it's almost as if there's $1 million on the line lap after lap. That's what the vibes we're getting here. As you can see, the pushes on the top of the track. Baker getting that huge push from, I believe it to be the number 48 machine. That's Matt White, and lost connection there in the center of the corner there, but that might actually work out to the benefit of Baker. He might get a good surge down the back, see if he can get a run. He's going to get squirrely off the push from White there, but that's just the name of the game. That's just kind of a day at the, a normal day's business here, is getting completely sideways on the bump draft. But all the while, staying right at it. 20 laps in, Andre, so the fuel window to get to the end of the stage is probably open. I don't think anyone's going to come this early, but the possibility is now essentially available.
Yeah, the window is open, but again, the most important thing when it comes to pitting here, other than getting a good entry and exit, is that you have to pit with other drivers. You got to make sure that you've got a group coming down to pit at the exact same time, so that when you exit, you can link up and immediately start drafting with each other to improve your lap times. If you come down pit road with just one other car, or God forbid you come down pit road on your own, when you come out and you have absolutely no drafting partner, you're going to be losing so much time every single lap. You're gonna see something similar to what happened to Cody Bird when he lost the draft. You saw him go a lap down in less than 20 laps just because of the incredible speed differential between being in a pack and being by yourself. So these guys are, number one, probably going to try to coordinate with not just their teams, but with the other drivers that are just around them in general. They are in their team chats and Discord, but they obviously do have access to the iRacing radio. So they're probably going to be chirping on there, trying to say, hey, who wants to pit on such and such a lap? And the other thing that's going to happen when that starts to transpire is they're going to have to settle out this too wide. They cannot start a pitting sequence with 2 rows of cars, because trying to pit from the second or third lane is a recipe for disaster. You're going to have to cut across that bottom lane. You risk cutting somebody off, spinning yourself off of somebody's bumper or just in general causing a bit of chaos, being the resident Kevin LePage, and nobody wants that. So they have to get to the bottom, but to do that, they either have to drop to the back where there is nobody on the bottom, or they have to find somewhere to slot in where they are. I don't know if you see this wall of cars that I see, Corey, but I don't think anybody's slotting in anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't get anybody in trouble with the sensors, but I just cue to a Family Guy meme that got Denny Hamlin in trouble of a certain ethnicity on the highway cutting across 8 lanes and causing issues. That's kind of what it's like when you're on the outside trying to pit abruptly without any help. Whether Carlos chooses to bring that up as he likes to, that's his own prerogative. But that's kind of what happens when people don't call out their pit stops and they try to pit from the second lane because they ran their fuel too long and they have no choice. All that kind of stuff does happen. But I'm just trying to scroll through quickly. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about a difference in pack, and I do want to bring that back up because Adam Benefield was about 3 seconds behind the lead pack not too long ago. That 3 seconds, Andre, is down to 8.5. And they are running last time by Adam Benefield in 31st, a 46.8 to a 45.8 on the lead pack. So that second pack is going to go lose a second a lap. They have a high probability of going a lap down if this stays green. So we may have an entire pack of 10, 12 cars be lapped naturally just off of losing the main draft.
Yeah, and that's definitely not something that Cody Bird wants to see either. He wants to be the only car lap down so he can be guaranteed that lucky dog. But generally, the magic number for the Cup car is anywhere from about a second to a second and a half behind the car ahead is where you can start getting the draft and it'll start actually speeding you up noticeably. Anything further back than that, if you're 2 seconds back, you're not going to get enough draft to stay with the cars ahead. So it's going to be really difficult. And as soon as we saw that Adam Benefield was 3 seconds back, I think you and I both knew things weren't looking too good. And now he's probably just hoping that maybe these guys come down pit road earlier than expected so that he can kind of maybe pit with them, maybe salvage as much time as possible. But unfortunately, things not looking too good. We've been riding on board with a few different drivers on the bottom of the 3-wide TV multicam. Really gives you a better perspective on just how narrow the track can feel when you're actually riding on board with the car. And again, you look at that the top of the 3-wide TV multicam, you're like, man, that track is huge. And then get to this onboard, and suddenly that confidence starts to waver. Currently riding along with Devin Medeiros in 34th as we then go to Alexander Russell in P6 right behind Lucas Hoytsma. And, you know, even though this camera is on top of the car, you still can't see a whole lot, Corey. I mean, you can't really see in front of the car. You're kind of just using him for reference. And that's not the perspective that these drivers are lucky enough to have. They're in the cockpit of this machine, and they're sitting even lower. Visibility in this next-gen car, in my opinion, is actually worse than Gen 6. So how these drivers have managed to adapt to it, I don't know, but it is pretty impressive as we go back to our Cameron Stone webcam trying to make something happen on that low lane.
Yeah, visibility is worse from multiple perspectives, and of course we do have to, is what we do as broadcast, we have to relay the differences between the real life and the simulator world. So the next-gen car does have its visibility limitations, but also a lot of drivers, probably mid-late pack, they're going to be having different kinds of issues because we got to be honest, Andre, frame rate, which is, you know, how fluid the motion is of your simulator, how much it's updating. It's a lot harder to get frame rate. Your frame rate will be a lot lower in the back as there's a lot more cars in front of you, which causes an entirely separate set of issues. And we do have pit stops.
Yeah, quite a few cars. I believe that was 4 or 5 machines stuck down pit road right there, and that was called out by Adam
Bogan, Hutchison, and looks like Robbie Keneally. Looks like maybe we have 5 down pit road.
So a fairly sizable pack.
I've been corrected, 4.
All right. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to necessarily have the pace that this lead pack has.
No way.
But I'm a little surprised by how early they ducked down there, Corey, because if I was a betting man, I'd say a lot of these leaders stay out for maybe even 10 more laps.
Yeah. You want to have a position. I mean, some people will play it either way. We have more peeling down too.
Yeah, another group coming down pit road. We got Alex Murray, Jeremy Miller, Alex Murray, RJ Root. I believe I just saw Matt Long down pit road
And
as well.
22 and 45 both overcooked their box right there. So that's going to, and the 12. So that's RJ Root. That is, who's the 22 this year? Of course, learning the new numbers on the fly. Alex Murray, as well as the 12. All overcooking their box. So that is going to both hurt them and lose time, but it's also going to hurt the guys who didn't cook their box because now they're going to have less cars to draft with and ultimately slow down their lap times.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of lucky that multiple people overshot their pit stall because then they both lost the same amount of time. They can exit together. And here comes another group of cars. Most of our leaders.
Huge pack. That's about probably 12 to 13 cars.
And it does include Kevin Steele, who actually made a little bit of contact getting onto pit road with Patrick Muchet.
Contact there between the 63 and 42.
Sean O'Brien Jr. overshoots his stall. So Sean O'Brien Jr. going to lose a little bit of time. Hopefully he's able to get out with this pack. But right there, we got a car at a very awkward angle. He's able to get out, luckily, because iRacing doesn't have collision in the actual pit stalls themselves. If that was real life, he would have had a bit of a predicament.
Yeah, there's a very certain threshold line where it does actually cause the ghosting, and it seemed like a couple of those drivers missed it by about a pixel or two where the ghosting was going to start, but it caused some incidents. See some smoke there, but you can see everyone trying to get out of the pit as we're just getting noticed that Mike Christopher missed the entry to pit road entirely. Slowed down, but not enough. You can see how slow he is trying to get back up to speed. And
number 9 has spun exiting pit road.
That's Alex Princeton. If it is indeed the number 9, somebody's backwards in a yellow and black machine.
We may have two different incidents because Alex Princeton did spin out, but I think I also saw that other car you're talking about here. So let's take a look at the 3-wide TV replay. Getting into the grass a little bit off pace. Up the track into the outside wall. Now, this was completely separate from the Alex Murray incident that you can see, or the Alex Princeton incident behind. So 2 cars having trouble independent of one another. Now, this is interesting because there was a whole lot of cars. Oh, man, a third car having issues.
So they got some oil on the apron there. I mean, naturally, the apron is going to have some marbles on it and be a little bit dustier, but 3 or 4 guys, you can see 88 there, swerving right in front of traffic while the 38 was in the grass, while somebody else was. I'm almost serious. Is something on the apron? Because that is absurd.
Well, I think it goes back to the high asphalt temperatures. It's getting up to about 93 degrees. And, he just got walloped from Brandon Pearson. That's not good for Brandon because if there is one place you do not want to damage your car at these super speedways, it's the right front, and that is what took the brunt of the hit for that 38. We'll go on board, just nowhere to go. I mean, he could have tried to get down into the grass, but then who's to say it even would have stayed in control? He might have just lost it on his own and slid up into traffic. So, he's dealing with that, and then he's got another car spinning in front of him, and he misses the blue cone as well. So, I mean, Brandon Pierce, that may have been the most disastrous pit exit for an innocent man that I have ever seen, Corey. And look at that hit to the outside safer barrier. That barrier did not budge. As I was saying, a very complicating factor here because a lot of cars are a lap down right now. They were either in the process of pitting or had just come out of pit road, and other cars had gotten around them and passed them. So the running order here is going to be more or less completely changed, other than I would say the top 5 looks pretty similar. But other than that, some of these guys that were up front, now they've lost a lot of positions. Kevin Steele, he was running 5th. Now he's all the way back in 13th. You've got Patrick Muchet. He was running inside the top 10. Now he's 16th. Jeremy Miller, Matt Long, they were running pretty well. They lost some time. Mike Christopher missed pit road, as you had mentioned there, Corey. He cost himself some time there and then had the caution come out, which didn't help matters. So, man, oh, man, a lot of drivers now having this first stage turned on its head.
And we talked earlier about Cody Bird. Maybe that caution would help him get the free pass, but because of the situation of who was on track at a certain point and, where they were and whatnot, he was not the first car one lap down. I'm trying to make out who got the free pass. It may have been the 88 of Christopher Hammond, but we'd have to get confirmation on that. So right now we have 36 on the lead lap, 4 a lap down. I don't know if wave rounds already happened or not. Maybe it already did, but either way, we do have that being the case. As we do get 1 to go, and it looks like our leader is Matt White, who has a lot of vehicles in front of him, so there will be a lot of guys that will have to speed around this track to get back into the mix of things before the green flag flies.
The timing and scoring has updated, and right now it's only showing 4 drivers 1 lap off the lead pace. The majority of these guys were able to get the free pass by not coming down pit road, and so we're seeing Nolan Hodgson, Kyle Ammon, Jason Taylor, Randy Drumhiller, Damar Sickenbottom. All these guys were being scored a lap down. They are now on the same lap as the leaders. But the 4 laps that are still a lap, or 4 cars that are still a lap down, Christopher Hammond in the 88, Dalton Mobley in the 77, Brandon Pierce in the 38, who again probably has substantial damage, and Cody Bird, who went a lap down prior to all of this. So I think you're right. Christopher Hammond probably would have been the recipient of that lucky dog, but he may have been the car that actually caused the caution. We had 4 different incidents going on there, and I'm not exactly sure which car was technically the trigger for the yellow, but whatever car does cause the yellow, as far as iRacing is concerned, does not get a wave around. So it's kind of hard for us to gauge up in the booth when we had so much going on, but it may be that Christopher Hammond is stuck a lap down because he was the cause.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, we got what we got now, and everyone will have to make do of it with 30 laps to go in the stage. Everybody should be good on fuel, so it'll just be a 30-lap race to get the first playoff points on the season. Matt White will be the control vehicle to the inside, with Cam Stone on the outside, as we will go into our Geico restart zone and get this underway for a second time. Pace car is in. We'll wait for Matt to get on the accelerator. There he goes, and let's try this again. Restart. Green, green, green.
At 48, sporting a new look this year. He's got some bluish teal with some black and some silver numbers. Definitely a unique color combo. I like the new look. A few new paint schemes out in the field this year. Obviously, Kevin Steele sporting a new look, and John Delaney sporting a similar car to what he ran last year, just with a few updates and a lot of returning paint schemes as well. Of course, Cam in that Silver Bullet 57. You always expect Cameron Stone to at least start out the season in that Coors Light machine before he jumps into some other paint schemes. But
he is getting squirrely. Courtesy of Hoffman there through the center of the corner.
Oh, and he's still getting squirrely, Corey.
And that's just the aggression. I mean, you have to imagine if he might be on voice chat saying, whoa, back it down. But if he's not saying it, then Hoffman thinks, it's all well and fine. You can see the 3-wide webcam, if I can get the words out there, and he doesn't seem fazed by it. You can see his eyes. He's not budging, so he clearly is not fazed by it at all. So kudos to him. You can see the inside starting to get the surge. Kevin Steele to the inside, trying to get the push with the 48 and the 6. And they have a head of steam now. We'll see if anybody decides to drop down and try to take that energy away and try to block the run. No, they will stay put on the outside. So Steele is going to try to recoup the lead. He's already led some laps today. He's going to try to lead a couple more, but I don't think he's going to have enough to get it this time.
Well, let me tell you a little something about Cam Stone. Now, he's a lot like me. He likes to talk. He says a lot of things. But one sentence that I could almost guarantee has never passed through his lips is, "Don't bump draft me so hard." I don't think those words have ever come out of his mouth. If somebody's pushing him, he doesn't care if that car is so sideways he's waving at the infield spectators. He's going to stay in the throttle, and he's going to let the person behind him continue to push, because you know what? That's fast. That's what it takes to win sometimes. And he's just not somebody who's going to get too afraid of that. Even when it comes to pushing the pusher, he'll be in just a Congo line of cars pushing each other, and he'll just be like, all right, this is fine. Pretty much as expressionless as he is right now on that webcam. So calm, cool, and collected. Kevin Steele back to the lead. You mentioned the inside lane starting to surge.
Well, we're going to have a funnel, Andre. We got a lapper ahead. We're going to have a funnel through the center of the corner here.
And here that lapper comes. You're exactly right. And first time this happened, everybody was able to get through it pretty well, but of course that wasn't in the corner. That's a very awkward place to catch the lap traffic, and fortunately the lap traffic able to stay to the outside, keep himself out of the wall and out of the cars beneath, so really didn't shuffle up the field at all. Man, that inside is flying. Kevin Steele took the lead back, and he has not looked back ever since. He's got Matt White behind him, John Delaney. Those are some good pushers to have. Meanwhile, Cameron Stone up on that outside line doesn't quite have the numbers behind him and isn't quite as formed up, so he's going to have to try to regroup and try again. But I'm telling you right now, Corey, getting towards the end of this stage, it looks like these bump drafts are getting a little more desperate than they were at the beginning of the race.
Yep, and then that's where you have to risk. You have to kind of gauge the risk versus reward, because obviously there are 10 playoff points, per position for the top 10. There's 10 points for the top 10 and a playoff point for the stage winner. Of course, it's race number 1. I'm a little bit rusty, but you have to take into account how important is that versus the possible outcome of being in the infield care center. So that's where all these drivers have to put into consideration what is more important to me, being here on lap 199, or do I try to go for broke and try to get that stage point? As we both talked about, from us as drivers, we're probably going to sissy out and not be up here, but could be the ones not getting the points and not being in Phoenix for the final 4. So all that comes into consideration here. Looks like we are starting to slowly single out here as we do have Brandon Pierce being surpassed to the outside. We're not in too close a proximity, so I think everyone should get through just fine. A little bit of 3 wide will proliferate towards the back half of that field, but he gets high and out of the way, and everybody gets through without conflict.
And I think him being off base is largely due in part to the damage that he got in that caution. Nowhere to go, just stuck on the apron and pretty much hit another car head on and damaged
3 wide.
Worst place, but we're going to go 3 wide again, this time for position. Man, oh man.
It looks like someone is stuck in the middle. I think it's Jim Schofield stuck in the middle there, getting surpassed by both lanes. So it just shows the aggression is there. The moves, people aren't afraid to put their cars in the holes if they see it. I think that's some kind of saying by Ayrton Senna. You have to go for a hole when you see it. So these drivers are doing that. You can see Jason Baker. He is just back there. Remember, he was up there going for the lead. Jason Baker back there in the 18th spot trying to get himself back where he wants to be. But whole conga line back to being double file, and it looks like we're trying to get an outside line formed. But now they're trying to form 2 outside lines, and that's going to hurt the run even more, because now instead of going for 2 lines, they're going for 3.
Robert Anderson, the biggest loser in all of that, he is stuck in the sucker hole. He's going to drop numerous positions towards the back of this lead pack, and the bottom lane single filing out, just proving to be absolutely dominant. Kevin Steele still leading the way, and a Matt White, John Delaney, Keneally, Kritz. And we do have the outside trying to make a move. But there's the quote. If gap, car. That's from Michelle Shoemaker. Just an iconic quote. Of course, Michelle Shoemaker, best friends with the legendary Bingo Matthews, 7-time Bingo world champion, 3-time F1 world champion. So I'm glad you brought up that little piece of history there, Corey.
Yeah, you didn't bring up the Family Guy, Jeff. You brought up that. So. Okay, but perhaps one's a little bit more politically correct than the others. But here we come up front with a newcomer trying to get his first lap lead of the day. At least I will check my stats to validate that fact. Yes, Chris James in the 82. First time that Camaro has seen the light of day to the front of the field, using the push from Matt Long, as well as I think that's Boyd Hagen back there. But that's the first time that outside has shown some serious speed in quite some while, Andre. You can see pretty much we're back to 50-50 split top and bottom. So now it's just a matter of who can do what. Let's see who got it at the stripe. I think it was actually James who got it. Nope, it was Steele. But this time definitely James is going to have it. Will he drop down low? He tried to drop down low, but had to bounce back because Steele was still there. And he'll try to recoup the run down the back straightaway.
Chris James has a famous brother called Kevin. I like that bio. Yeah, the 82 has not led a lap yet, but he's no stranger to the front of the pack here because he was part of that three-car tango you had mentioned a while ago that kind of shot towards the front of the field from mid-pack and had a ton of speed. So we know that 82's fast. He's just got to make that final pass to get around the leader and get a lap led, get that under his belt, maybe try and show the way. But right now, that outside lane starting to stall out, largely due in part to that block he tried to make on Kevin Steele. It was a little bit late. He had to retreat back to the outside lane, and of course, all that swerving scuffed away a lot of speed that checked up pretty much the entire top lane. So now they got to regroup, try it all over again, and it does take a little bit of time to build up that momentum. It's not something you can really do just on a whim or like the flip of a switch. You kind of got to build up to it. So 82 still leading that outside pack, which now does include Cameron Stone in the 57, not too far behind him there. Again, aggressive pusher, and that's what I look for in these plate races. I look for the most aggressive drivers because that is, I would say, almost as valuable here as it would be at a short track.
Yeah, definitely the case. So you're really depending on your other drivers for your own fate, which is definitely a short track quality there. You talk about that even at the Clash, where you depend on the other drivers, because if a driver 3 cars back misses his corner, he's going to end up causing a domino effect that affects people that had nothing to do with it. So definitely something to happen. But Andre, we've been talking about stages, and we're coming in on. I have to interject my thought there because I am so terrified seeing this bump drafting through the center of the corner here, 69 to the 82 there. Try to get that outside surge, but now we're gonna start seeing the moves be justified, because now we're closing in on 15, 16 laps to go in the stage. So if you are someone who's a Ralph Hutchison in 12th, if you are someone who's a Jason Baker in 18th, or a Pat Mouchet at RJ Root, if you want to get stage points, Andre, you're running out of physical laps to make it happen. You're going to have to start making those moves if you want to get the top section of the points.
So we're going to go 3 wide again. The 82 got shuffled out of line. I believe it was a bad bump draft by Boyd that got him out of line and put him in the sucker hole. So that not only destroyed the outside's momentum, but it also sent that 82 very capable machine a little bit further down the grid. He was able to line up on the inside, though, so that may actually be a blessing in disguise, because I think the bottom's the place to be, and he may find out he's a little happier down there than he was on the outside. Speaking of the outside, look at this. You have Robert Miller in the 15 jumping out to the top lane right alongside the number 16, trying to maybe build up a little bit of momentum here, maybe lead some laps if he can. But that is an LMM freight train trying to form up on the outside. You got Robert Miller, Michael Christopher, Lucas Hoytsma all in a row with Boyd behind him. Now, hopefully Boyd doesn't give another bad bump draft like he did to the 82, but either way, that outside's looking pretty strong right now. But, not quite as strong as that inside. Kevin Steele leading a lot of laps tonight. And that 48, he's been a good pusher, Corey. I mean, I've been watching him. He's aggressive with the pushes. He makes sure that 7 stays out front, but he's not out of control. He's not getting the 7 uncomfortable. And that is something I'm sure all these drivers are going to keep in mind. You kind of have a mental note whenever you start working with somebody. Okay, is this guy, is he a good pusher? Is he kind of out of control? Do I feel comfortable with this guy? And it seems like the 7 and the 48 are working together really well right now. And that may be something that these guys have to keep in mind if they need to link up later on.
Yeah, and there's also the converse of that is you usually have, if you want to say the guy who doesn't give the good pushes, which, I won't call anybody out in this race, but in real life, it's kind of known as we have 15 to go on the stage. It's kind of known in real life that Stenhouse is going to be the one who is probably going to wreck you. And you have the guys like a Denny Hamlin or a Kevin Harvick who kind of have like the mayorship in the garage to kind of put certain drivers in their place. Andre, would you relate anybody in that league to kind of have that community leadership to say, hey, you stop doing that?
Oh yeah, there's a few drivers in the league. I think Kevin Steele, Cameron Stone, and Adam Benefield certainly. If if they tell you, hey, here's what we need to do and here's how this is going to work, I think most people are going to shut up and listen because obviously they know what they're doing. They found a lot of success in this league, and I think people kind of look up to them. Obviously, Bryson Hixenbaugh was a figure that a lot of people looked up to when he was involved in the league. A lot of drivers not happy with the admin decision to remove him over what was quite a controversial call. So, that's kind of something to keep in mind too, is we have a huge incident. Boyd in the 69 is wrecking on the inside. No caution yet.
We say green, and it doesn't look like his car is off too bad. He was kind of getting some Daytona 24 practice by trying to run the chicane there. I'm sure we'll get a replay on screen shortly, but we do stay green. There was a couple residual pieces of drivers who had issues there. Replays on screen right now. Couldn't quite see it there. He did pinball off of somebody, went to the inside of the track. We'll have to get a better view of that, but these next-gen cars are pretty beefy. They are pretty strong, and it doesn't look like there's too much collateral damage from that.
Yeah, I don't really know what Boyd was doing there. It was a massive checkup on the part of the 69. This is the second race in a row. He's kind of just checked up in front of somebody. I don't know if he needs to get his brake pedals checked out, or maybe
it was the 27 of Russell that got the pinball, and it was ultimately Cam Stone that turned him, even though it was not Cam's fault. It was the circumstances of it. Yeah, you can see there right on that replay, Cam, that was the 27 of Russell. Got ping-ponged down to the grass, but all in all, I mean, the time is lost, but I don't think either of those guys should be too much detriment for the rest of the race.
Yeah, as long as they stay on the lead lap, which I think there's few enough laps remaining in this race that if those cars that were involved are able to link up, they may be able to stay on the lead lap. And if that's the case, this stage caution will save the number 69 and the 27. So Boyd Hogan and the 27 may be able to still be in the game. Now, the 27 has quite a bit of damage, unfortunately. Like he said, he caught the ping pong at a bad angle. But Boyd himself, I'm looking at that car, it doesn't look too awful bad, so I'm not sure how much pace he would lose, if any. But we are winding down. It's lap 55 out of 65. Now, just a quick refresher for the viewers at home. The stage cautions are thrown by admins who are racing. So because they're in the car and they are racing, the time at which the stage caution is called is not always 100% precise, but generally the rule of thumb is that as soon as the top 10 have crossed the line to complete lap 65, the caution will be called at any given time after that on the following lap. So essentially 65 will be the lap that you want to be in the top 10. Maybe get those bonus points as we go to our 3-wide TV multicam. And we just saw a moment ago as I was explaining that, Corey, it looks like Boyd Hogan and the number 27, they found a pack to work with. So fortunately for them, they shouldn't be going a lap down.
Yeah, currently 20 seconds off the lead. Naturally, it's about 46, 47 to get around this place in the draft. So as it stands, we have 35 guys on the lead lap, all of which should be on the, be fine to complete the stage. And Alex Van de Sant in 36, he'd be the one in best position for the free pass, at least as things currently stand here. But up front, looks like we only have 3 cars. You see on the top of your multicam there, only 3 guys trying to rock the top of the racetrack right now. I don't know if we're turning into real life a little bit, Andre, where we race really hard for the beginning part of it, and then we fizzle down when the points actually matter. It kind of happens in real life. We don't know why, but at least for the time being, not many people interested in making that outside lane work, but they could just be waiting maybe till 2 or 3 to go on the stage.
That could be, but one thing I'm noticing is, one of these 3 drivers that is spearheading the outside is Robert Anderson. I've noticed at plate tracks and really any other kind of track, Robert is always the one to make a move. He's never afraid to put himself at a little bit of risk for the opportunity of a potential reward. He's a very reliable driver to work with in this situation because that he's not just going to duck out of line and lead you out to dry to save his own hide. He's going to make this outside line work, or he's going to die trying. He does this at every plate track. At mile and a half, he makes some very bold lunges, and I love it. He's not necessarily reckless. Being aggressive and being reckless are 2 different things. He's aggressive, but he's smart, and I like that. So I would not be surprised, Corey, if he manages to not only nab himself some stage points here in the stage, but maybe fight out for the stage win.
Yeah, and that's what you need, is you need that guy who is, as you said, smart, but also aggressive, because that's the guy you can trust, but you know you can go. Look at the 5 down the back, straight away, head of steam. Going to the moon with that push right there. Is he going to go to the bottom? Is he going to abandon Schofield? He's not going to for the moment, but I feel like we're getting to the point where you can't stay with your drafting partner if you want to hold the stage. You're going to have to start playing both sides of the track. There, big push there that got him a little bit squiggly. That's going to get the inside surging again, and now all that for naught.
Man, oh man, just when we thought things were calming down, they get right back to being exciting. That run, man, that they got last lap, I mean, they had to be going 10 mile an hour faster than the inside lane. I don't know how they did that, but I'm sure they can do it again. Here they go again, Robert, on the outside. They are so formed up. I mean, these guys are like, whoa!
Not quite formed up there. They kind of lost it on corner entry there, but kind of, Andre, this drafting package does have some qualities of the old 2009, 2010 tandem style package. It's not obviously entirely that, but for short bursts of time, you can get these space shuttle like surges that can really shove you ahead, as we've seen.
Absolutely. And this time, Robert Anderson is not going to make the same mistake. He is going to dip down low, but he made sure that he could bring Schofield with him. And again, he's not the kind of guy that's going to hang you out to dry. He gave up the lead to make sure that he didn't leave Schofield high and dry the first time. The second time, they were able to both get clear, so he took the advantage, went down to the bottom. Schofield followed him, and they're still working together. So what a pair these guys have been so far.
15 of Miller got a huge push there from White on the outside, and it was not a good push because it got him dead sideways, but that is trying to get that outside lane surging here as we have 4 to go in the stage. That outside, only 5 to go. I can't do math. Only about 3 cars there on that outside lane, and that's not going to be enough to maintain and get that surge going, or maybe it will if they can get that tandem draft going and side draft appropriately. They're going to be side by side with second. Is the 5 of Anderson going to try to stiff the top and take the momentum away? Nope, he's going to get a good triple push from the bottom there and give the inside a good surge.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. We were hired to talk about cars going in circles really fast, not do math. So I don't hold any commentator accountable for any math errors. You know, if the viewers are that worried about it, they can whip out the pocket calculator and just use the math on
cough there.
Oh my goodness! Robert Miller dead sideways again, as you put it there, Corey. He is on the wheel right now, but unfortunately, they're not quite getting the head of steam that Anderson was. So they're going to have to try to maybe link up a little bit more stable than what they're currently doing. I mean, they're giving big pushes, but they got to be lined up, because if those rear tires come up off the ground or you get sideways, you are not gaining any time whatsoever. So it looks like 15 is going to stay on the high side, try again the next lap, but that inside has such a good advantage right now with Anderson and Schofield.
Whoa! We're wrecking. 34 and the 15 to the inside, and that's not going to cause a caution. It's off the iRacing racing surface as they deem it, so that will stay green unless we get an admin yellow. They're really slow crabbing, and I think that's going to cause a caution. Miller dead sideways on the tri-oval. That should cause a caution as this next pack goes by.
Yeah, no caution yet. He's still on the apron. iRacing not considering him on the surface. And I'm a little bit baffled by that. I mean, cars were passing him at 200 miles an hour, literally 3 inches from the splitter, and iRacing doesn't deem that a caution.
Yeah, I think enough of his car must have been on the apron that it didn't deem it, as he's going to get surpassed by some more people here, but now he's going straight as the 15. His replay is on screen here. Again, this kind of a push gone wrong, and 34, he is on the bad end of the ping pong there and goes to the inside.
We saw Robert getting so sideways. I think this was kind of an inevitability. Now, I'm not sure how much damage. I mean, Robert obviously has a ton of damage now that he hit the outside wall, but the 36, I'm not sure how much damage he has because it looks like he took the brunt of that initial
We are,
impact.
just to cut back to live action, we are closing in on the white flag for the stage. Kevin Steele with John Delaney, who somehow we have yet to talk about really all evening. He is in second, Cam Stone in third, taking lap number 65 right now. Outside lane is about 4 or 5 car lengths back. This is the white flag for the stage. And I don't know if that outside's going to have enough momentum. It's going to take someone from the inside going up there to try to make something happen, or else Kevin Steele's going to have an easy stage win.
Yeah, we'll have to see if anybody actually tries to jump out of line from the bottom because I'm not sure the top's going to have anything. And yes, what did I say? Robert Anderson, he's the guy who's going to make the move every single time, and he's trying now. With
Delaney, let's see if Delaney tries to hop up anybody.
I don't know. He's got Cameron Stone right behind him. Here comes Anderson and Schofield on that top line with the help of James in the 82.
Nope, Delaney's solid. Delaney's solid to the back bumper of Steele. Kevin Steele gets the playoff point, and the remaining drivers will get their laps, get their points.
And it will be a stage win for Kevin Steele. The drivers who unofficially got stage points that stage for stage 1, according to my scoring and timing, Kevin Steele taking the win, John Delaney, Robert Anderson, Cameron Stone, James Schofield, Chris James, Lucas Hoitzma, Sammy Borey getting some stage points in that number 64. RJ Root, with his earlier mishap, is going to finish the stage out in P9, so he's getting 2 points. And the driver to grab that final stage point, Matt White in the 48, finishes the stage in 10th. So these drivers are now going to have to catch the pace car, as Kevin Steele would say. They're going to work their way down pit road and get those cars serviced, and we're going to be ready to go back green after that. But we are going to try to get an interview with Kevin Steele once he does get out of the pits. Again, we here at 3 Wide TV, we would never pull somebody in during their pit stop and cause them to make a mistake. It's never happened. If you think that it happened, or maybe you remember it happening at some point, now that's the Mandela effect. It's a conspiracy. Never happened.
I think that it happened once, folks. That's what he's trying to say.
It never happened. It's fake news.
But either way, we're getting situated here. Pit stops will be available this time by, looks like, based on the telemetry that I see, Alex Van de Sant should be the beneficiary of the lucky dog, as I think he's already prepared for it by having himself in the upper lane there on the back end of the shot. But should see, I mean, I'd imagine, Andre, 4 tires and fuel, just because, I mean, you don't really need the tires, but it's caution. Why not? Or you think we're going to see some 2 tires or fuel only just to shake things up?
That's a interesting question, because generally tires don't matter a whole lot at a track like this, but when you do have the entire field coming down pit road and you're not really worried about losing too much time under green, you might take those 4 tires just in case you need them, especially when you got to take a full tank of fuel anyhow. 27 came in the pits hot, and we do have a car in the grass. The 88 of Chris Hammond. I don't know how he wound up in the grass.
Yeah, I'm just doing some recon here while I can. He was trying to evade somebody who was slowing down on the track surface, and then while slowing down, it got him loose into the fence. I think we have that on screen right there. Do a little bit of evasion.
You know, we've seen that exact same thing in real life, like almost line for line. I think it involved Cody Ware and LaJoy, yeah.
Yep, that was it.
So unfortunate for Hammond. I mean, he didn't really have anywhere to go.
Cue the Family Guy meme. I turn now, and end result equals bad car for the 88, unfortunately.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let's pull in Kevin Steele real quick before they get back green. Kevin Steele, you got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, Kevin, you're a previous Daytona 500 winner. Now you're starting this one out pretty strong with a stage win. That number 7 machine's looking fast.
Yeah, we got a really good car. Probably the best car I've ever had at one of the plate tracks. So it's awesome just to be able to be aggressive enough to make moves and not have to worry about the car doing weird stuff. So had a lot of help that stage with I think Lucas was pushing me for a while, then Matt White, then John. Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely looks like a lot of fun out there. Now, we've seen a few bump drafts gone wrong so far. How's the bump drafting with these cars from your perspective? How's it feeling?
It depends on your car setup. Mine's pretty tight, so when I get hit in the rear, even around the corners, it's pretty stable. But if guys have a looser setup, they're gonna have their hands full for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, you're going to be going back green pretty soon here, so we'll put you back with your team, your new team over at Team Conti, and good luck with the rest of the race.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
All right, so lights are off on the pace car, and we are headed down the back stretch. Currently on lap 69. It'll be lap 70 when we do take the green. And Kevin's going to try to maybe double down on that stage win. But Corey, I got to ask, what are maybe some of your predictions for stage 2 based on what we've seen so far?
Well, I think we've learned who to look for when it comes to bad pushes. I'm not going to say much more. We've seen a lot of pushes overall, so I think these guys kind of know at this point who they want to be with, who they think they're going to be with, how their cars react with different drivers. So I think Kevin Steele, he has the car, as he said, to stay out there. But John Delaney, I mean, need we say more from last season? He has the track position. I mean, is he going to lose it? I mean, I'd be hard-pressed to bet against him, but we'll see what happens here. We're going to be going to lap 130, so another, I don't want to get the math wrong, 60 laps, I think, maybe, to finish this out for the next stage. Pace car is in, headed into the Geico restart zone. Delaney's going to get this thing underway on the accelerator. Here we go, racing for stage number 2.
And both of the lines are going to get a pretty solid start, but the inside just barely taking the advantage. Anderson pushing Jonathan Delaney, and then Lucas Hoytsma on the top pushing Kevin Steele. Kevin talked a little bit in his interview that Lucas was giving him some help earlier, so we know these two are working together pretty well. They seem to be pretty comfortable. And man, oh man, as we say that, look at that, Kevin Steele shooting back up to the lead. And he is going to leave that 07 on the outside, but that may come back to bite him, because look at that free Bryson Hixenbaugh 07 machine with a huge head of steam down the back straightaway. He is going to get 3 car lengths clear of the number 7. Now, does he drop down? It looks like he's going to remain loyal to that outside. He had plenty of time to drop down, but unfortunately, now the 7 car going to strike back. Unfortunately for him, I should say. It is fortunate for this bottom lane, as they are getting a solid chance of getting back out front here. It's a dead heat going into turn 1.
And that's a difference, Andre. Again, we talked a few times about the drafting model differences. That's a change that you'll see with the next-gen cars, where you can keep that momentum from the outside as some shifting going on there. You can keep more momentum built up in the outside lane. You don't need to drop down like you would in a truck or an Xfinity car. So you will see more drivers kind of staying loyal and remaining on that outside lane. As again, Hoytsma down to the bottom now. He's going to try to push and get to the back of Delaney, get that 3-car tandem going. And somebody, I think that was 82 of James, averting the top of the track. So people starting to bail on the top. And do I see a little whiff of a third lane moving up there? I think I do.
Oh, we see that third lane. Boyd Hogan is trying to form up that third lane with a couple other cars. Couldn't quite make them out, but they are going to go 3 wide. Michael Christopher as well in the sucker hole right now. He's going to need to link up with somebody. Otherwise, he's going to the back, and he's going there quickly. But that 3 wide proving to be a bit of a scary situation. We're making some of these guys up front glad that they are where they are, because, man, you get stuck in the middle lane, nowhere to go. It is not fun.
At 82 of Chris James, he fell back, but was able to rubber band and get a huge run. I thought he was going to take a shot with it and try to go somewhere, but Anderson wasn't close enough, so they will all just single file out. It'll be 8 or 9 cars there, single filed out at the front of the field. Haven't really seen that at all today, but 43 of Robbie Keneally, he is trying to make something happen with Soul Pusher, the 69 of Boyd Hogan. As we're wrecking in the back in the second pack. We have 41 sideways, 16, bunch of carnage here on the back straightaway.
And that is going to be the third caution, the second caution for pause. Numerous cars involved. We'll take a look at the 3-wide TV replay, try to scope out exactly what happened. So we got 3-lane racing back there, and I think it just went awry. Couldn't quite get a good perspective on what kick-started that.
There was
but
a push from the outside lane. I think it was the 92 gave a push to the 8. Yeah, the 92 gave a push to RJ Root on the third lane. That got RJ sideways. And again, that guys, just innocent bystanders just cruising along. And all of a sudden they just find themselves wrecked without having any idea what got them. But it's about the third time that's happened tonight. But it started off, again, a push gone bad.
Yeah, and you know, you're going to see that more and more as these guys continue to get more aggressive and we get closer and closer to the end of this race. You see all those cars scrambling to try to get out of the way and keep themselves out of harm's way. Here's a nice helicopter shot. You can see everybody involved, the net code that got, I would say, 2 or 3 cars heavily damaged and a few more with minor damage. So unfortunate that so many cars had to get caught up in that. But that is the danger of being mid-pack, Corey. And I think, you know, how we were talking about how you and I both have the same idea at these tracks. We kind of go to the back and let these guys battle it out. Well, that's why.
Yep, and I thought we had some takers on pit road here, but we are already got some takers on the back end of the field coming into the pits. This is our third caution, Andre. We did look at the stats as a reference earlier. We had 5 cautions in all of last year's Daytona 500. Already at 3, and we're not even at halfway. So we're right on pace, or we're going to surpass that total here this evening. But still a long ways to go to figure that out.
Well, you know, maybe we can put a little poll up in chat. Do you think we are going to surpass last year's 5 cautions for cause? I think last year's 5 cautions were for cause. I don't think they included the stages in that statistic. So
nope, that was straight from the iRacing telemetry. So that
okay, so yeah, that would be 2 cautions for cause, or 3 cautions for cause, 2 stage cautions. So yeah, maybe put it in chat if you think we are going to surpass 5 total cautions from last year's Daytona 500. I'm going to say that I think we are. I think being on lap 75, we're already on our 3rd caution. We've got a guaranteed stage coming up, so that'll be 4. That means to match last year's, we only need 1 more caution for cause, and to surpass it, we only need 2. And there's a whole lot of cars still on track, Corey, and you know as well as I do, the more cars on track, the more potential there is for a little bit of chaos.
Yep, and if you do get it right, if you do win the poll, then you know what, we'll give something good away. Maybe Carlos can come up with a 3-wide TV NFT, because you know everybody loves those these days. So maybe we'll give one of those away if you get the poll right. But so we are lap 75. Let's just kind of get a little quick not quite a field summary, but it's kind of a scope of what's going on. We have 32 drivers still on the lead lap. Looks like we have 3 drivers, or at least 2, Michael Christopher and Cody Bird Cody Bird is on track, but he's just having connectivity issues. So it looks like actually everybody who started the race is still in the session. So nobody has parked it and gone home for the day. But yeah, still about 33, 34 cars on the lead lap.
That is a lot of cars still in the game. And if we do get more cautions, of course, some of these drivers do stand to possibly get their lap back. Cody Bird's still only 1 lap down. He's currently the first car a lap down, and he is in the potential seat to get that lucky dog. Robert Miller behind him is 1 lap down. Robert Miller's car is heavily damaged, so I wouldn't say he's too much of a threat to Cody for the time being. Dylan Kritz is 2 laps down. Brandon Pierce is down 5, and Christopher Hammond is down 7 since that incident that he had trying to get into pit road. So unfortunate for those guys, but a few drivers that maybe could get a lap back. We'll have to wait and see exactly what happens here. If we can stay clean and green to lap 130, I don't know. I know that, let's see, we're on lap 76. And they got to get to 130, so that would be...
Get the math right.
4 laps, roughly. I don't think they can go that far on fuel, even if they just now pitted. So we are looking at potential green flag stops in this stint even still. Now, if this caution had come out maybe, I would say, 10 laps later, maybe they had the potential to make it. But Unfortunately for them, they're not getting that get-out-of-jail-free card. They're still going to have to woe it up down
Andre,
the pit road.
I just got to say these numbers are making me insane in the membrane, but don't want to get copyright strict there, but wanted to do a little clash joke there. But pace car is in, and we will await the green flag once again. Geico restart zone. Green, green, green. Kevin Steele on that outside control car. He's going to drop down right in front of John Delaney off the get-go there. Got a good start, at least if that was the goal. It was a success, but the 82 of Chris James to the outside with the 47 of Schofield giving him the shove, trying to get that outside up and cooking.
Yeah, and we know that outside lane, it can be powerful. We saw from Robert Anderson earlier in the race that if you got a few cars that are confident pushers and they're good at what they do, you can make a run and even surpass the bottom lane. So even if they don't have the numbers, I wouldn't say that they're at a huge disadvantage. But right now, the bottom lane is the place to be, and it generally is for the first few laps. Because again, to make that move on the top, it takes a few laps to wind up, and we have a caution again. It's caution number 4 of the race. I'm hearing Brandon Pierce possibly involved.
Yep, he is sideways in turn 4, has towed it to the safety of the pit road, and we got a replay queued up here at what in the world? I'll await the replay here because I don't know what I just saw on my side, so I'll wait for Carlos to pull it up on the back end here. He's running by himself while he's to the inside there.
Oh, what?
Oh, that's just I'm gonna quote one of my commentators on my channel who says that was a thing.
I'm gonna say that was either
a spotter needs to be fired immediately or some kind of mechanical issue.
Yeah, no, that was just a misjudge. I think Chris Hammond thought he was clear, but I'll tell you what, I don't think Brandon cares. I think Brandon Pierce sees that as malicious, regardless of what it actually was.
And he is immediately in the infield care center.
Well, let's see what he thinks about it.
Drama awaits. Brandon, you got a copy.
Loud and clear.
So we were just trying to describe what we saw. We called it a thing from our perspective because we didn't know what to say. What was it like from your perspective?
I mean, he just hooked me. I don't know if he thought he was clear or what, but he just hooked me. Just absolutely hooked me and threw me into the wall.
So, I mean, ultimately, we saw you do the instant tow to the pits. Is it completely done? You think you can maybe get a couple laps down and maybe get him back over the course of the rest of the race? Or,
I mean, being that I was already 5 laps down because the same guy lost it on pit road in front of me and gave me a meatball. I mean, we'll probably try to get it fixed, turn laps, try to collect a couple of points, looking long-term team championship if that's viable. But, yeah, we won't be competing for anything other than gimmies.
All right, so that being said, we head to a quote-unquote real track next week, heading to Auto Club. You feel good about getting some redemption there next week, Ben?
I feel a lot better there than I do here.
All right, well, sorry the 500 turned out the way it did for you, but watch you next week, see if you can make something better happen out of it.
All right. Thanks, boys. Y'all have a good night.
So definitely not too pleased with that, and I can't blame him.
Maybe some carryover emotions from the clash, depending on how it went. But you can clearly tell that, we talked about drivers who these guys are gaining respect with or not gaining respect with. Well, I think we've already kind of loosely found about 2 or 3 that aren't getting the general consensus of the regulars here.
All right, well, we got Brandon's perspective on it. How about we get the other side of the story?
All right.
Chris Hammond, you got a copy? Mr. Hammond, you got a copy?
Yep.
Well, Chris, we saw that you called it a night. You parked it in the garage there after that incident with the 38. Brandon, we just had a word with him. He's not too pleased with what transpired, but what happened from your perspective?
Well, what happened was this isn't real life, and my internet died.
Well, that's a pitfall of sim racing. So a little bit of netcode, or you mean you completely blinked out there?
I completely blinked out. I couldn't see anything, and all of a sudden I'm in the pits.
Yeah, that's never an ideal situation, and obviously that is, one of the things with iRacing. When you blink out, sometimes you risk kind of losing that awareness. Sometimes it does help the safety of the matter, but then in cases like that, it's not ideal. So yeah, you had a rough Daytona 500, and we're sorry to see it end that way. Going forward to Auto Club next week, looking to maybe get a little bit of a bounce back.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be up for blood next week. I'll tell you that. There's nothing I could have done different this week. That it's just Daytona and stupid things happen. The spin out on coming off pit road, that was just, we were next to each other and he got into me a little bit and it was just spinning out on me the whole time. I tried to save it, couldn't save it. And then when everyone else was pitting, when everyone else started pitting that one time when I put myself in the wall, basically what happened there was the guy coming into the pits, I was gonna pass him, and all of a sudden he decides he's gonna go in the pits at the last second when I'm trying to pass him on the inside. So I had to, take evasive action, and it sent me in the wall.
Yeah, we did catch that on the broadcast, and we pointed it out. It was not a fun situation. It didn't look like, and not really a whole lot you could have done differently. And that's the frustrating side of these split races. I mean, they can be a whole lot of fun, and then sometimes things like that happen, and you start second guessing this kind of track. But we're sorry your night ended the way it did, Chris. Hopefully next week at Auto Club, we're talking to you under maybe better circumstances, and you have a little bit of a better run. Get yourself some points built up, and have a good weekend.
Yep. See you next week.
Thanks for your time. Chris
So
Lemon out of the booth. We did have Dylan Kritz in the infield care center momentarily. I was going to bring him in, but he just bounced out of the infield care center right as that interview ended. So in the meantime, Corey, it looks like the race has gone back green. Kevin Steele in the lead with John Delaney right behind him. Not an unfamiliar sight whatsoever.
yeah, not at all. So, but just kind of touching back on that, he says he had internet issues, and sometimes, when you have internet issues and iRacing loses all of the data, it will just kind of extrapolate where it thinks you should be, and it can make erratic judgments on that. So it very well could explain what happened there. And he talked about how his race went sour. And the worst part of that is you don't want to create enemies based on what you feel are out of your control situations. And it kind of seems like that may be the case for him. So hopefully Auto Club will kind of reverse some of those mentalities some of these drivers may have accumulated here. But pertaining to what's going on right now, about a 6-car breakaway up front led by Kevin Steele. Dustin Hall, I don't think we mentioned him at all. He's in the 7th spot leading that second pack, and it finally looks like, Andre, we're kind of getting ready to, as we like to call it, is kill some laps.
Yeah, maybe they're going to be able to pick off some laps here. And while they do that, Dylan Kritz did jump back into the infield care center. Maybe he heard us. But I'll hand him to you, Corey. This is a driver that just seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time numerous times. He was involved with Robert Miller. And then, of course, that last incident there, getting the tail end of it. Let's see what he's got to say, Corey.
Hey, Dylan. Corey up in the 3-wide booth. You got us?
You got a copy?
Yeah, so we saw you in that last wreck kind of be the, just kind of the innocent bystander, as we've seen it a few times tonight, as we just had some live contact on screen right there. But just talk about that last wreck that kind of put you in that bad spot, and ultimately the pushing and just kind of how crazy it was out there tonight.
I was running pretty good early on in the first stage. When you're coming around to, I can't remember if it was like 3 left in the first stage. Had a first incident where I got hit from the side by the 15, but I think he was spun by someone else, so it's what set us up to be in the bad spot there. And then I think Chris just kind of came down and thought he was clear, and he wasn't, and hooked. I didn't catch who it was, and that just ended my day.
Yeah, you were just kind of along for the ride. Next thing you know, you're spun out. But overall, were you at least happy with the car? I mean, given the issues you had, were you at least happy with the car? Did you have some confidence in what you could have done if everything did align, the way you hoped it would have?
Yeah, it was a little loose, but just keeping the inputs pretty smooth. It felt like something where could have done something with it, stayed up front, because it was running top 5 at times there, so it had something.
And well, it didn't work out the way you like, but luckily for you, a lot of people are in that same boat, so points should be kind of mitigated from that. Any confidence going into Auto Club next week?
Yeah, I think we'll have a good chance. It's a bit less chaotic than Daytona.
Yeah, kind of the first real race of the season, man. But we'll keep an eye on you there, see what you can do, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Hey, thanks.
So Dylan Critz obviously disappointed, and I tell you what, that is the worst feeling, I think, as a driver, is when your race gets completely ruined and turned on its head, and you just feel like there's not a whole lot you could have done different. Again, Dylan Critz there, he was involved in a couple of incidents, and both of them, it was just wrong place, wrong time. And thing with Daytona, other tracks, you can kind of guesstimate, okay, where's the incident going to be? You got a pack of cars here. These guys might start something, so I'm going to back off, or I'm just going to go ahead and pass them. At Daytona, you don't have that advantage. I mean, the wreck could happen anywhere. It could happen at the front of the field. It could happen in the back of the field. It could happen in the middle. And really, unless you're just going to be either the lead car or the very last car, there's no guarantee for safety. And
sometimes both of those positions can still get you in wrecks, especially with the pushing situation we have. There's true. There is no guarantee Kevin Steele leading this race is completely off free there. But with John Delaney, last season's champion, who won whoever knows how many races, I can't remember, but it was quite a large amount of races last season. I'd feel comfortable with him behind me, but you could see that pushing got really tight there between Delaney and Hoytsma. Cam Stone there, our live webcam driver, they're back in the 4th spot. But currently, Andre, we're going back for this whole pack. I think we have 16 drivers in this lead draft with Randy Drumhiller on the caboose right there. Jeremy Miller in the 30. He's in 17th right now. He is leading the charge of the second pack. RJ Root, Noah Hodgson. That's going to take you all the way back to the the 32nd position with Kyle Ammon. And that's basically the field right now. So we are single file, and we're getting some requests in chat for a crank it up. So that is up to our producer, Carlos, but I'm sure we can appease the fans.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take in the sights and sounds of Daytona with a Bring the Noise. hopefully you guys enjoyed the sights and sounds of Daytona International. While we were getting that cranked up, I do believe some cloud cover actually rolled in and the track temp has plummeted just from the shade that we've gotten over the last few laps down to 84-degree track temp. So these cars should be feeling a little bit more stable. Wind has actually increased by about a mile an hour, so now 9 miles an hour directly to the east. So I believe that would be, correct me if I'm wrong, that is a headwind down the back straightaway. Kind of slowing these guys down perhaps. But other than that, during the crank it up, not much changed, Corey. We still got the same leader, Kevin Steele, out here leading laps as he has all night long. He's got John Delaney with his bumper to the bumper, trying to give him a little bit of extra speed. And then you have Cameron Stone and Lucas Hoytsma, but a few takers down pit road, according to our producer in our ear here.
We have Root, we have Alexander Russell, we have the 69 machine of Boyd Hagen in pit road, about 5 or 6 drivers in. As we're about 37-ish laps from pit, so this would be right on the beginning end of the fuel window. But just as you talked about cloud cover, Andre, it is the sun is back out now. We are at about 4 o'clock virtual standard time. I don't know what sunset is in Florida in mid-February. Carlos may be able to answer that for us. I don't know if we're going to be heading into the lights or not tonight, but still not even at halfway in tonight's efforts.
Yeah, we're getting closer to halfway. We're here on lap 94, but still plenty of racing left to go. I believe sunset would be sometime around 6 in sim, so if we did see any lights, it would be right at the very end of it. I think even then we'd probably have to get quite a few cautions, but we'll just have to wait and see. I also want to point out in that last caution, one thing we overlooked in all the chaos that was going on was that the number 13 of Cody Bird actually did get the lucky dog. So finally, for the first time since, I would say, lap 15 or 16, he is back on the lead lap. He's currently a part of a group of about 3 cars, Tanner Marty and Dalton Mobley drafting with him. But they're 15 seconds back from the leader, and they're losing time. So they are at risk of going a lap down again. Now, Robert Miller's also a part of this pack. He is a lap down, as is Mike Christopher in the 16. So those two trying to help these guys draft, but even with those 5 cars, not quite on pace to at least match the lap times of the leaders. So we'll see how that all transpires. The leaders still have not pitted. We had a few takers down pit road just a moment ago, as we saw, and now I think we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop here, Corey. We're waiting to see when the leaders are going to make that hard left turn and how coordinated they can be with it. Because really, other than that first pit road scramble on the exit, here comes all the leaders pretty much. Here we come. Other than that incident exiting the pits, we've really not seen too many drivers accrue any penalties within pit road itself. So, oh no, we got a car backwards on pit road. I think that might be Princeton.
That is, yeah, it's the 9 machine, which indeed Alex Princeton. So that is not the ideal configuration. But yeah, we haven't seen anybody. We've seen a couple people overshoot their pit stall, but we haven't seen any speeding penalties, which would be denoted by a 40-second time penalty added to your pit stop. So haven't seen any of that, but we've seen many a driver struggling. And I don't even think Princeton's in his stop yet. I don't think, did he ever actually get service in that configuration? I'm not quite sure.
Yes, he did. He had a very early pit stall, so after he spun, he pretty much just pulled right into the stall.
And then just behind that, here comes Robert Anderson.
Whoa!
Anderson, Schofield, and Long all come to the attention of their crew. We saw some left sides go up on Matt Long. But here we come off of, see what we got on cam. We got the multicam up on screen right now as guys exiting the pits, some current draft packs trying to recoagulate together, if such a word exists, and try to figure out where we are going to shake out in the grand scheme of things. But Jeremy Miller has assumed the provisional lead here at the moment with RJ Root to his behind.
Yeah, so a lot of cars that have stayed out. They've gained a lot of track position. They're probably kind of holding out, hoping that they maybe get another yellow to maybe keep some of this track position. But Cody Bird, Tanner Marty, Dalton Mobley, Kyle Lamb, and these guys passing a ton of cars just by virtue of staying out. Now again, this league, just as NASCAR would do, does not have any bonus points for laps led, so really it's just bragging rights and some extra camera time. to get out into the lead as Miller has done. But, you know, camera time's never a bad thing, is it?
Yeah, I mean, they do everything in the league that NASCAR does, except I don't think they had a halftime show at the Clash, right? It's probably about one of the other things they missed.
So we did have a halftime show. Kevin Steele took off his shirt and he was singing Taylor Swift. It was honestly terrifying, and
that needs to actually wait. Did that actually happen? Do I need to go back and watch the broadcast?
oh yeah, I mean Kevin Steele, he was plastered. It was a big thing. There was a Zoom call. He was singing all the Taylor Swift songs he knows.
That needs to happen. 2024. I'll sponsor it. I shouldn't say that because now I'm going to get held to it. But a live, actual Clash halftime show, I'm going to sponsor it next season. I'll put it up right now. But anyways, as we it's taken us 100 laps to go off topic here, as we have some close racing there. I think that was the one. Couldn't quite tell from the bit right there, but kind of shoved everybody high. That's a situation, Andre, that happens in a lot of leagues where if you are the slower car, you typically go to the high side and let the field go to the inside rather than making everybody else change their lane. It does kind of create those chaotic situations, but luckily everyone's able to evade it.
Yeah, that was definitely a scary moment. These guys did have some pretty fancy evasive maneuvers at the ready, it would seem. They were able to get through it and really not lose too much time. Didn't really separate into any more packs than they already had. But it seems like right now, Miller and Root, Hodgson, Murray, these guys are absolutely dedicated to this longer run strategy. And it seems like they've got the fuel to go a little bit extra distance, but we know that there's no way they're going to be able to make it to the end of the stage. So sooner or later, they're going to have to come down pit road, but in the meantime, I think they're just saying, come on, racing gods, give me the yellow.
Yeah, right now, so if you want to say our quote-unquote real leaders would be Boyd Hagen in the 11th spot. I think we have that on cam on the top half of the display right now. He's getting pushed by the 92 machine. And then we have a couple of drivers, John Delaney, Kevin Steele, in that company as we do complete the halfway point in tonight's Daytona 500. So that's our kind of our real lead. And Miller in the top four, you know, they're up there. Randy Drumhiller, he's there. I think with a lap car helping him, Dustin Hall. And we have a spin. That is the 0-2 machine spun on the back straightaway there, but he will correct it using all that runoff pavement down there. That's Mark Padgett. No harm, no foul. He will stay green, but terrible luck for him.
Yeah, I noticed Mark Padgett slipping down the timing and scoring, and for a minute I thought maybe he put it all on his own, and I was like, that's not a good idea. But then
he just kind of bounced back and forth. He got too low and straddled the apron there, and that just caused him to lose it. And then I think that was Kyle Ammon. Yep, Kyle Ammon actually got the short end of the stick of that as well.
Yeah, definitely an easy mistake to make. And I'll tell you, once you do straddle that apron and you get that difference in banking from the left side of the car to the right, you are so wrecking loose. I mean, the car is just completely out of control. Not a fun feeling to have. Now, he's lucky he had all that runoff and he was able to kind of get that thing corrected, and I think he may actually, he was not able to fall in line with Kyle Ammon and Cody Bird, but he does have some pit stops coming up, so maybe we'll see what he can salvage there, but no damage, which is kind of the big thing. He knows he's got a stage caution coming up. He's not out of the game yet. I'd say at this point, with all the misfortune that has kind of struck some other competitors, as long as your car's in one piece, you're doing better than some.
Yeah, that is the case, but he may be relinquished to the Lucky Dog battle, which is a quite a big list at this point. With Dustin Hall currently being in 30th spot, he is top of the Lucky Dog pylon. Jason Baker, Michael Christopher, so a couple of different packs of drivers that those positions are in. So we'll see where that all shakes out. But what we are still waiting for is our leader, Jeremy Miller, to come in. Currently 25 laps into his stint. Top 9 still have yet to pit. They are all 25 laps or more into their current sequence. And then Kevin Steele would be the next leader from that 10th spot, who is leading about a 12 to 14-ish car pack, if not more than that.
Yeah, so Steele is actually gaining quite a bit of time to the car ahead. Cody Bird, Tanner Marty, Dalton Mobley. These guys are falling back to Kevin Steele and John Delaney. But the leaders themselves, Miller, Root, Hodgson, these guys are pretty much staying on pace. They're not noticeably faster or slower than Steele, so gap remaining relatively stagnant there. Of course, once they come down to pit, they will lose their track position. I don't think they're going to be able to
it may be interesting. I don't know if Carlos has the magic technology to get like the lap times up, where we can see the lap times between the top pack and then the big pack. Because right now, he has the magic, but we have the technology. Last time by, a 46 flat from Miller, and then John Delaney, well, rather Kevin Steele, a 45.8. We don't have the technology, as pit stops have happened. The technology has been ruined by the fact that they've pitted, so all of that came for naught. But let's see what happens. One of the four of them overshot. RJ Root had the first pit stall, and he overcooked it. So what's that? At least 10 drivers have overcooked their pit stalls today.
Yeah, it's been a reoccurring theme, that's for sure. And again, it's not really a track where you want to do that because you have to come out with other drivers. Otherwise, you can be losing a ton of time. So
if pit stalls were steak, you would not be able to chew them after this one.
No, that's okay. We're gonna give that a 5 on the fun board, but it looks like our main lead pack there has kind of come down pit road. Hodgson as well. Dalton Mobley, I can't tell if he came down pit road or if he has stayed. No, he is still out on track. Hodgson. Yeah, okay, I'm just a little confused because the timing and scoring shows Hodgson in the pit, but also simultaneously maintaining the lead. So, there we go. Timing and scoring updated. Hodgson is in the lead. Dalton Mobley currently P2. Tanner Marty is in third. Cody Bird in... Oh, look at that! Cody Bird up on the podium. Quick, somebody take a picture.
We hit... All right, it's in third. Lap 107, timestamp it. And maybe we'll pray for rain.
Yes, we need that rain cloud. Get that thunder. No, the lightning clock. That's what we need for it.
But it's still early enough. They'll turn the lights on.
Ah, that's true.
We need fog.
Yes.
All right. Now we have a plethora of information on screen. You can see the gaps were about 2 seconds down to different numbers there. The bit rate, I honestly can't read them, to be honest. But there's stats for it. There's numbers. We like numbers.
So it looks like it was 2 seconds at the first lap, then it was 0.6 of a second, 1.8, 1.0, and then 0.06 of a second. Again, the bit rate is pretty low. Corey is not wrong there, if you can see what we're looking at. But I believe that's what we're seeing. So Steele is actually, I mean, he's going to catch this pack ahead if this continues. And the pack ahead hasn't even pitted yet. So Mobley, Marty, and Bird, they're looking at losing a lot of time when they finally do pit. And that's kind of the risk you run when you take this long run strategy. If you get a properly timed caution, it can be a great move. But then if this happens where it stays green, well, this is what kind of happens. And you saw producer Carlos there kind of highlighted the gap between this first pack and Kevin Steele back there. And I don't know about you, Corey, but it looks like that gap was getting smaller.
Yeah, it is. It goes down to those numbers games. And if the numbers games are about equal, how good is the draft? At this point, Kevin Steele's leading 10 plus cars, so that will eat into 3 cars. Obviously, quite quickly. Lap time difference is 1.2 seconds or 1 second flat per lap. So it'll be about 5 or 6 laps before they are overtaken. But luckily here at Daytona, you can make a pit stop and technically stay on the lead lap. I think it's about a 35 to 40 second pit delta time. So you still could stay on the lead lap, but you're not going to be able to stay on the lead lap much longer because you're not going to have that drafting help.
That is for certain, and we are getting ever closer to the end of stage 2. So the last guaranteed caution is becoming more and more imminent. Lap 110 out of 130, 20 to go in the stage. And it sounds like some chatter over the radio. I think Cody Bird and Dalton Mobley may be planning on coming down pit road.
No, Cody Bird has an extra fuel tank, we've been told. He has manipulated the fuel cell in that machine, so he should be all right to finish this race out.
Well, You know, I mean, I've in real life, I've heard of drivers running a fuel line all the way up through the roll cage and then getting a lot of extra fuel that way. So I could see Cody doing something similar.
We do have one taker to the. I thought I saw one taker to the pits, or it was just a really big, just everyone changing lanes very abruptly there. But no one did pit this lap. So, but look at on the long shot there, you saw there that was the gaggle of leaders there, Kevin Steele and company. They are single file and they are ready to attack, and they're going to be attacking maybe by start finish line at this current pace.
Yeah, I think they're going to get there right as you predicted, but we'll have to wait and see. All the shuffling around in this lead pack is also not helping their defensive efforts. It's definitely scrubbing some speed here and there when they do kind of dip in and out of the line. We're going to go on board with Kevin Steele. You can see last time by he was 1.9 seconds faster, almost 2 whole seconds faster. And as they get to the trioval, he is within drafting distance. So he's going to get pulled up. In the words of DW, this is what we call the suck. And he's going to get pulled right up there.
Vacuum Hoover engaged. And he's going to go right to the top of the racetrack, and they are not going to try to slow him down. But now, does anybody in that pack try to play games? I can't imagine why, because they're going to need to pit either way. And just look at that Mario Kart turbo pad engage. Activate the mushrooms. Here they come on the outside.
Jeez, oh man, somebody tech this number 7 car, because he's going like 20 mile an hour faster than anybody else. My goodness, what a run that was. And
that's like the golden mushroom. It's just, it never stops.
No, he can just keep on using it, and he brought the whole top lane.
Bullet Bill, I'm sorry, I've been corrected, yes.
Well, I mean, the Bullet Bill implies that the Bullet Bill drives for you, and I feel like that's a bannable offense in iRacing.
And it's a destructor that just plows through everybody with no care, so we haven't seen that yet. But it may happen later.
It may. I definitely think we're going to get there. I mean, we're 113 laps in, and we've still got quite a few cars in contention here. But Kevin Steele does take the lead back. He's got John Delaney and Cameron Stone in tow. So these three have been working together pretty much all night long. It is incredible how long they've been linked up. I mean, seriously, Corey, I'm thinking back to like lap 60 or 50, and these three were working together. So the final takers down pit road, Jeffrey Souza's extra gas tank for Cody Bird has apparently run dry. He's going to have to get that thing serviced as well as Dalton Mobley and third car in the pack there. So everything is cycled out now. The pit sequence is more or less complete. And really, not much has changed, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show that you create these partnerships. You create these companionships on these plate tracks, whether it's done premeditated ahead of time before the green flag, or whether it's done during the race, and you learn, hey, I draft well with this guy, our setups clash, we know how to race together, and then you just go with that strategy. And we don't know if it's premeditated or not, but obviously the top three have really decided that they work quite well together, and they have a trio, and then Damaris Hickenbottom behind him, who is at least one lap. He is one lap down. He's in the free pass spot, is Damaris, so he would fancy staying in that position if he can. And now the rest of the pack has caught up. Now let's see how they deal with Hickenbottom and the 20 of Medeiros, and how they're able to get by and potentially battle the top three.
So we did have a question in chat. Ricky Thompson asked, is the second pack saving, or are they just slow? Obviously, we can never tell you with any certainty. I mean, we can make a good guess. And I'm going to say they're probably not saving. I don't know how you feel about it, Corey, but I think everybody is more than good on fuel. Just the way the stage was split up, the times in which everybody pitted. I don't think anybody is getting on the verge of not being able to make lap one.
I mean, I have the back-end technology here as well, so I can. So Hoytsma, who is, I think, the first one in that second pack, he is on the same strategy, 20 laps out of fuel run. Behind him is Boyd Hogg, and he's 23 laps, so he has a little bit longer. Jason Taylor, 21. So there is a couple more laps of fuel for some of those guys. That I don't think that'll be that drastic. Still waiting for Mark.
Oh, huge rack, front of the field, the number 20.
There we go.
Matt Long involved, a plume of smoke. I can't quite make out everybody, but there is a
Matt
plethora.
Long, Chris James. There's two that I caught right there. 27 of Alexander Russell. He's hit everything but the, I don't know how that saying goes, but he's hit about everything tonight.
Hit everything but the pace car.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And looks like Damaris got hooked by the 20 there. And that just sent him around into the middle of the pack, and everybody else had nowhere to go. 12 machine got the bad pinball effect there. And everybody else just spun to the inside pavement. And I'm going to be honest, Andre, I don't know the suspension and, you know, the engine damage, but visually, a lot of those cars don't look that bad.
You know, that's something I'm noticing in this session as a whole is I feel like from our spectator perspective, the damage modeling isn't entirely accurate. So it's making it very difficult to gauge. But you're right. A lot of those cars don't look too bad, although the damage is enabled. And we should clarify, because we did have that issue in the duels, or not the duels, I'm sorry, the Clash a couple weeks ago, where the session was actually kind of messed up on the iRacing side of things, and damage was accidentally disabled. But we can confirm the damage is on, so anything that we're seeing here may just be a bit of a spectator issue. But again, that's just the worst place, Corey, for a wreck to happen. That was pretty much dead center of the field. You had guys 2 and 3 wide, and anytime an incident happens there, it's not really anywhere to go. We got a better view of it here. This is a closer angle. So Damaris Hickenbottom trying to bump draft Cameron Stone on that top lane, and then just gets checked up a little bit. The whole lane kind of checked up, and Devin Medeiros just taps the left rear, and that is all it took.
Yep, and the 12 of Nolan Hodgson. There's been in every wreck tonight, Andre, there has been one guy just cruising along on the low line, just enjoying life and just vibing, and just gets absolutely annihilated, completely blindsided. And in this case, it was the 12.
Yeah, it seems like that has been the theme of the night, is just people being in the wrong place at the wrong time, not really being able to do anything about it. And that's Daytona, man. It's tough. It is, especially when the field hadn't really thinned out that much to that point. Still a lot of cars in the race. Now, obviously, we're going to have significantly fewer, so hopefully things calm down a little bit. But now here's where things get a little interesting. We're going to be going green, I would say, lap 121, lap 122, roughly. That is going to make it a bit of a dash to the stage finish, and a dash to grab some stage points and potentially a playoff point, which means things are going to get really aggressive. And if you want to see how the end of the stage plays out, stay tuned right here on 3 Wide TV. But while these guys get caught up to the pace car and get sorted out, we're going to throw it to a short break, and we'll be back before they drop the green. And the pace car is going to make that hard left turn. We're back on 3 Wide TV, and the field is back together 2x2. Green flag is going to go in the air as they work their way through the Geico restart zone. Kevin Steele opting to take the high side. He's got John Delaney down low, and no surprise there, he's going to immediately switch lanes, get back with his draft partners that he's been working with for the better part of 3/4 of this event so far. On the outside lane, that is the number 43, Robbie Keneally. He is getting one heck of a run with a healthy shove from behind, but that outside lane getting a little bit out of shape. Looks like the number 41, that's going to be Jason Taylor. Jason, strategy Taylor, we haven't talked about him all night long, but here he is in that Supreme 41. Of course, that's the sponsor Jason would choose. Trying to get up front, but unfortunately, as we've seen so many times, Corey, that outside lane takes a few laps to get wound up.
Yes, it does. And right now it's only 2 up there versus, well, maybe 4 now, as 3 as Taylor goes back to the bottom, but not enough coordination. So the bottom is where you want to be, at least at the moment. But as we talked about, our stage is not too far off. So the aggression will kick back up, but these guys have to kind of get back together. You can see on the long shot here, Andre, off of 2, everybody's still kind of collecting themselves after the restart, having to, close in and get that energy built up so they can start making some moves.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have to start planning out their moves now if they want to make it. We're going to be at 9 to go in the stage when we cross the line here. Kevin Steele still out front. Kevin Consistency Steele has consistently led a lot of laps, we'll put it that way. Robert Anderson also is a car you might want to keep your eye on. You see that orange number 5 Tide ride right behind Lucas Hoitzma. He's 5th in line. That is a machine that has made some incredibly awesome maneuvers tonight. He's made a lot of good passes. He's been very aggressive, and we have an incident in the back of the field. Keneally.
Robbie Keneally. I don't know. I mixed 2 names there.
It may have been Boyd also involved.
69 of Boyd Hagen. Maybe some more. Let's we'll queue up the replay momentarily. That'll be the 6th caution. We've already, so if you voted, so if you were in the 86% who voted above 5 cautions, you will get a 3Y TV NFT once they're created. But look at the replay on screen. And push gone bad.
Second bad push from Boyd, and unfortunately that one came back to bite him. He's going to get heavy damage, and ooh, look at that. Net coated, and I mean, I'm not sure I've ever seen the net code turn somebody into a Beyblade before, but that's exactly what happened to Boyd Hogan.
I'm just getting some more looks at that, and because, that was strange. But the positioning, I will say, Andre, the positioning of the 43 there, as we are kind of focusing on Boyd a little bit here. And that code gone crazy, but the positioning of the 43 there on the straightaway did cause a couple other drivers on the tail end there to kind of, well after the original incident, had some issues and ended up hitting the wall. So ended up causing probably about 6 or 7 guys, I'd say, had some kind of a piece of that wreck.
So Carlos was asking in our ear what exactly happened to Boyd when he got spun around. Watch this purple and black car. He blinks out of existence. He's going to come into frame right... Well, okay, that was actually too far zoomed in to see him. But there was a purple and black car that was headed right for Boyd. He blinked out of existence, and generally, when that happens on the iRacing service, when you blink out, your hitbox is also disabled, so nobody can make contact with you, and vice versa. But I don't think his hitbox got disabled. I think what happened is somebody blinked out and then just T-boned him.
So this will be a good situation for us to describe the actuality of how iRacing works on the very simplification model. So there's 3 races that exist. There is your race on your computer. There is, well, your competitor's race. And then there's the most important race of all. It's the iRacing server. So what your computer sees, and even what we're seeing on the broadcast, that doesn't necessarily matter. What matters is what that iRacing server computer sees. That's what dictates what we see for wrecks, and sometimes it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. So that's just, it saw that car blink out at a different spot than what we're seeing it, and that's just what caused that wreck. But we do have a individual in our infield care center, and that is Robert Miller. If you want to have a chat with him, Andre.
Yeah, let's see what he's got to say. We'll bring him up. Robert Miller, you got a copy?
I got you.
Well, Robert, an eventful night, to say the least. Been caught up in a few incidents, as have many other drivers. Seems like it's just a bit of a kind of a full moon out at Daytona today, huh?
True. I think a lot of people, I can tell, haven't had a lot of practice this week. They aren't used to getting pushed or being pushed or pushing somebody. And yeah, that's
Those
what's
are all
happening.
pretty essential things here at Daytona, I should point out.
Oh yeah, it's frustrating. Like, you're trying to move forward through the field and everybody's in the way, which is fine. It's Daytona, but you know, like, you're getting pushed, you expect it, and somebody's not getting squared up with you, and you lose it. So that's essentially what's going on. And they're not timing their pushes right. You're getting pushed in the middle of the corner when really they should just wait the extra like 20 feet to get off the corner. And that's what's happening. So that's where half these wrecks are coming from. And it's even better when, you know, in the infinite wisdom of this league right now, we're at 13 X's for a DQ right now instead of the standard, 17 X's for a 500-mile race. So everybody's going to get DQ'd for this race just because it's at 13 X's right now, which is what happened to me.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit low, especially given the fact that you can get X's for particularly rough bump drafting, so you may not even really be involved in an incident, and you may accrue those points, or maybe you avoid somebody else's incident, you go through the grass, you pick up 1X for an off track. Very stringent, you're not wrong there. Now we're going to Auto Club next week, and I think there's a lot of drivers, yourself included, they're going to be going there a little bit frustrated from Daytona, but I know that Auto Club is a pretty good track for you. You tend to have a lot of speed there. How's your outlook?
So far positive. I'm able to focus a lot more as of right now, thanks to work on setup building and driving again. And the pace is showing really well. It helps that we have Altis Esports has a good set of drivers in a Coke Series now, so we're really all focusing on Coke Series, which is the next gen. So it helps having that background too to be able to focus on that.
Yeah, definitely. So hopefully we're talking to you next week under better circumstances. You still got some teammates in the show, so maybe you can head back up and be a bit of a spotter or whatever else they may need for you. But thank you for your time, Robert, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm feeling a little under the weather today, so I'm probably just going to go back to bed. So y'all good night.
Good night, man. Robert Miller heading to bed. He's calling it a night, and you know what? I don't blame him. It has been, it's the dichotomy of it, Corey. It's been fun for us because we've had a whole lot of things to watch and a whole lot of things to talk about. But as a driver, you gotta imagine things are getting a little bit heated with all these incidents we've had.
Yeah, and the light bulb just clicked because through all the discussions we've had, Andre, the last thing we have not talked about the incident limit at all, which that perfectly describes why that crazy netcode happened, because iRacing despawned him just at an unexpected time. So, with that being said, we've had so many drivers tonight getting wrecks that are still competitive. What are their incident limits? Are they at, if we're going for 13 and you're out, 2 incidents, that's a 4X. Maybe you went in the grass to avoid. We could be really having some issues, and we're only a certain percentage of the way through this race. That's over 50, but less than 75.
Well put. Less than
less than 50, but
more than 50.
Yeah, 63% of the way done with this race, perhaps.
I'm telling you, we are math experts up in the booth. But yeah, it is. I'm surprised to hear that it's 13. I should have known about it. I should have, because I know they put the penalty limit in the announcements page on the Discord, and I guess I should have ran through that. But 13 does seem a little low because, as I said, you can get penalty points racked up for particularly rough bump drafts. And I don't know about you, Corey, but I've seen quite a few bump drafts that I think may have gotten some people some points. So I would not be surprised if you see
I would like to
DQ.
say that 127 is actually 63%. So I actually guessed that right on the fly. So I just wanted to interject that. But yes, you can definitely get incident points very, very easily. Whether even be through netcode, you may not even have to make the physical contact. Could just be completely netcode, completely your fault, not your fault. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. That tally's on the board, and you have to work around it. Somebody's in the grass.
Ooh.
Jeremy Miller. Sideways. In turn 3, and ouchie boo-boos there. We have some carnage.
Oh, man. Yeah, you hate to see it. So that'll be the end of the stage. Kevin Steele's going to win a second stage of the race.
Wait till we see that one on a replay, because that was an interesting one.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious. So he's through the grass. You called this out as soon as it happened. Now he's Takumi Fujiwara drifting back up onto the track, and then just parks it in the middle of the racing surface. Carlos, did you just say that was Itsuki? Oh my god.
Newfangled kids in their terminology there. But yeah, he got hooked by Robert Anderson. He went agricultural working through the bus stop there. Right back up the track, and he literally spun directly into this, like, just blocked the entire racetrack wheel as much as one car like could possibly block, and then got further bullet billed, if we want to go back to our Mario analogies there, and just adds more incidents to the limit and puts more drivers in precarious positions, and further shakes the field up, but ends the stage. And Kevin Steele, he's going to go 2 for 2 on the stages, so all he's got to do is go for the three-peat and win the race. But we have a busy pit road right now as well.
Yeah, and I can tell you, there's a lot of drivers in this race that are not making friends, not the way you want to start the season. I never like to immediately jump on a driver for doing something, because in the car, in the heat of the moment, it is completely different from watching it. Sometimes you make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes, but from a racer's perspective, somebody coming back up onto the racing surface and parking it is not going to be a popular outcome for that incident. There's probably some drivers that are not too happy with that, but you're not lying there, Corey. We got a ton of cars coming down pit road, and that's to be expected. It is the end of the stage, so most drivers are going to come and get those cars serviced.
We just got asked who hit him. I believe Chris James, by the color of the livery, may have been one. Couldn't quite see the other there, but apologies for that. But yeah, Andre, as you said, respect, frustration. I will say, as a driver, I don't get to drive that much anymore, but I did actually do an official iRacing event yesterday, Auto Club in the ARCA car, and I will say, little calm-headed pun Corey over here is I'm a hothead behind the wheel, and not hitting the voice chat and letting my displeasure out was very difficult to not do that. So definitely after this race, a lot of guys being put in these precarious positions. Definitely patience is being run dry. As we have some more replay up here. I think we're going to get a slow-mo and see who hit Miller here. I think that was the 82. Hickenbottom may have, yeah, he kind of got trickled there on the outside, and that's the 41 of Miller there to the inside. He skates through. So it looks like only one real contact out of that, and that was James.
Yeah, James, again, one of those drivers that so far tonight has been involved in just about everything there is to be involved in, and none of it is his own doing. I mean, how many times
we can queue up that on board, Carlos, of what James had to see going into that? That'd be maybe an interesting visual.
Oh yeah, that'd be a good one. And I mean, how many times can a guy be wrong place, wrong time? Here we go, on board.
82, Chris James, Kevin's brother.
Yeah. The Queen of Kings,
or perhaps a super freak, depending which. Actually, that would be, I don't want to get the guys on. Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble with the guys if I call them a super freak. So, but I think we are on one.
Oh wow! So we talked about the incident limit, Corey. As the producer just said, 82 out of the race for the penalty limit.
Yep, and that's the replay on screen here, and you can see that equals bad.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I don't think he had much of a shot at continuing regardless due to all the front end damage.
Just cue the TikTok music that's going, oh no, and then.
I hate that I can hear.
Gotta stay hip with the kids,
Yeah, I hate that I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. But meanwhile, back to I just saw what's on Lucas Hoitzman's car there. Free Bryson causing the political drama in the league, I suppose. Either way, but let's get ready for a restart, shall we? Green flag in the air on lap number 132. Hoitzma with the push from Jason Taylor. I think I accidentally called him Miller not too long ago. We'll correct that. But to the outside, a big push there. 45 of Root. Hasn't been involved in everything under the sun tonight, but still has enough car to lead the race.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Root can do up there on the outside. Now, Kevin Steele having to work his way back up towards the front, losing some positions through that pit sequence. Now, I should point out, in real life NASCAR, the trend is typically if a driver wins the first two stages, they don't go on to win the race, more often than not. So maybe that doesn't bode too well for Kevin Steele, but we'll have to wait and see. We know that 7's been a rocket ship all night long, and look at how formed up that bottom lane is, just car after car. Meanwhile, on the outside, you've really only got about 2 or 3 competitors linked up. So we'll have to see what they can do, if they can maybe form up a run. It is Russell in the 27. Now, this is one of the fun things about Daytona, Corey. I've seen Russell involved in 3 or 4 separate incidents tonight. Here he is, leading the way.
Yeah, I think the U.S. Army could probably borrow a couple of these next gen and just repurpose them as tanks, because that's essentially what they are at this point. Just paint them with camo paint and send them to war, because these things are basically indestructible, or at least it seems it from a lot of these guys who are leading this race right now.
Yeah, the damage has been not as bad as what we would have expected. I think the term I used last year that you gave me flack for was tanky. Said the car was tanky.
Well, here
I stand by that.
I'm putting it in full limelight right now, and at least we don't have concussion protocol. A big thing on Twitter lately is driver head movement, and a lot of these next gen wrecks. Of course, NASCAR in the real world did try to redesign some crush panels and make some panels crumple more upon impact. There is some work to be done in the iRacing model. I think the next patch may have the next gens a little bit more damagey, for lack of a better word. But for the time being, we have tanks, and I think some of these guys are very thankful of that. But the mind game is who has the incidents, who could spare another wreck, who is having to be really patient just because they don't have that incident to lean on. So I think a lot of these guys may be in that boat, Andre, of just maybe they only have 10 incidents right now and they can't spare it, so they just have to kind of play around and just finish this thing out.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all you can do at this point. And I should point out in the chat, we got Dan Fields saying, you guys cursed it. We're going to get a damage model update next month. Just watch.
Well, actually we will, because the build is in 3 weeks. So, but as I think I was saying to Andre on private chat on one of our breaks, iRacing did a major patch where they fixed a lot of the vehicles that are quote-unquote tanky, but they didn't get to the next gen, so it's basically inevitable that it will get less tankified in a near update. So I would imagine by a Phoenix or whatever race 5 is, we may have to race a little bit differently.
Now that is true, but also keep in mind, to the viewers at home, Dan Fields, being the menace to society that he is never to be trusted. He's always in the chat, always around the league, and you just can't trust a word out of his mouth.
He gave me a very interesting nickname that I won't repeat on air.
That he did, but just keep in mind, you see Dan Fields say something, you just can't trust a word out of his mouth. It's a thing, we keep him around, but just that guy,
So is he the equivalent of Taco Bell coming out of your body? Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, I mean, more or less. That's what we're going for.
The digested Taco Bell. That'll be his nickname, I guess. DTP. There you go. He's DTP. He has an acronym, folks. He has an acronym now. But meanwhile, these are the things we can do. It's really taken us 130 laps to kind of goof off, but this is what happens, Andre. It happens at least once every race. I mean, we're here for 3.5 hours, but these guys are single file for back to the 18th position. Robert Anderson last on the conga line right there. Then we go back to Jason Baker, 19th. Cody Bird on the lead lap 20. They're about 8.5 seconds off the lead. And that gives us 25 guys on the lead lap. Mars Hickenbottom being the last one. He's in a small trio of damaged vehicles. But our attrition clock here, we have, I think, about 9-10 drivers, no, about 8 drivers, I want to get the math right, have retired from this race, Andre. So the attrition definitely has taken its ugly head, but to be expected what we've seen.
He definitely has, and we do have quite a few drivers one lap down as well. Alex Princeton in the number 9, he's the first car lap down, currently sitting in the lucky dog position. And you got Devin Medeiros. He was involved in one of those incidents earlier on. He's a lap down. I believe you have 7 or 8 drivers that are a lap down. Then you get to Matt Long. He's 2 laps down. And there's all those drivers you mentioned there, Corey. Hoffman, the 82, all these guys out of the race after everything that's happened. But really, I mean, we started with a 40-car field. We're 140 laps in. 8 cars being taken out of the race thus far, especially with this strict penalty limit, is honestly still a little bit lower than I was expecting. So really a lot of drivers still in the game here.
Yeah, comparative to some other races that iRacing does hold on the official side. I know Race Spot, they held the official iRacing Daytona 500 broadcast, and by about halfway through, I think they were down to like 20-25 cars left in it. So that says that. And Coke race, I didn't watch the Coke race because I don't care enough, just being completely honest. But they have been known to have a lot of calamity in them as well. But these 100% guys, Andre, I know we do have a lot of guys that have Coke affiliation, so they do work with those setups. Teep Conti with Kevin Steele. So a lot of these guys do work with the very best of the best, but there just seems to be an extra level of respect amongst, at the very least, the regulars in the series. A couple guys have to kind of ingratiate themselves into that, but just a lot of great racing. And these guys they know how to work with each other. They know how to endure these long races and kind of work when it matters.
Definitely the case. And we do have Chris James in chat, the driver of the 82. He didn't jump in the infield care center, but he did put in chat, well, that was unfortunate. We had an absolute rocket ship and kept getting taken out. Nothing I could have done. It seems to be the running theme, like we said. A lot of drivers just wrong place, wrong time, and unfortunately that's the lottery that is Daytona. You never know what's going to happen, and more often than not, you're going to get the short end of an incident. But I think a lot of these guys are just itching to get to, like you said, the first quote-unquote real track next week there at Auto Club, and have a bit more separation between the cars, a little bit more room to breathe, and hopefully some pretty good racing. But the racing here has been good, despite everything. We've had a lot of passes for the lead. It's been fun from our perspective.
Yep, and Chris, if you are in chat, just for your 3Y TV nickname, do you want to be Rick or do you want to be Kevin? Just let us know for the graphics package. But the racing has been great, and it turns into, every race, whether real or virtual, there's a point in the race where we just kill laps. Sometimes it's in the beginning, sometimes it's right before the the final run to the checkers. And we do have one more pit stop to go. I'm just trying to get a look at my back-end data. We've been on the track for about 12 laps now, so probably once lap 160 comes around, the pit window opens to take us to the checkers. So we know some drivers who are going to work together. We know Kevin Steele. We know John Delaney and Cam Stowe. We know that trio is going to work together. But who's going to come in with them? Who's going to try to get into that trio and put themselves in a good position? Are people going to screw up their pit entries? You're going to have one more shot to pit. We've seen a lot of guys have pit issues here, slowing down their pit box. So this is where you really have to focus and realize that we're coming to when it really matters here, and we have to be on our game for it.
You absolutely do. Tell you what, it's been a little while since we did a Bring the Noise. So with Russell in the 27 leading the way, one more time tonight, let's take in the sights and sounds of Daytona. car back at lap 148. We still got Russell in the 27 leading the way. He's got Matt White behind him. RJ Root in that 45, a new number, but the same old driver behind the wheel, trying to get that thing up to the front. Lucas Hoitzman, that free Bryson Nixon-Boz 07. Jason Taylor in the 41, another driver with a new number and a new paint scheme. He's trying to secure that top 5. Sammy Borey in the 64. He is currently running 6th. And then all the way back in 7th, we have the winner of both stages, Kevin Steele. And tell you what, we actually did get Chris James in the infield care center. He did hop in. So I'll tell you what, I'll hand him over to you, Corey.
All right, sounds good. All right, Chris, Corey up in the 3-wide booth. You got us?
Yeah, I got you, Corey.
All right, so we saw your race end very abruptly with that T-bone incident in 3 there, but you were up front making some good pushes, making some good friends there, having some good headway, but Daytona is what Daytona is, man. Just talk about the your race overall and how it ended.
Yeah, sorry. It took me took the medics a little while to patch me up after that last hit. But I mean, we came in. I think we got a solid strategy, working with the Dirty South guys. Me, Jim, and Robert Anderson were up there for a while, making our way to the front. I think we had the speed to do something, and it all changed in an instant. I go from P4, looking at a nice stage finish, to getting collected. I didn't even go back to see look at what happened there, but that took us out. And after all that shaked out, we had 10x through. I'm not even sure where the first 4x came from, but yeah, we were sitting 3x with a lot of laps to go, so I didn't have much hope.
Yeah, so it looks like right now, man, finally everyone kind of got the memo to kind of play it out and just kill some laps off. Were you kind of waiting for that to happen throughout any point of the race, or were you kind of surprised that it stayed hectic and people weren't just killing laps, or did you kind of expect it to be kind of chaotic like that?
I kind of expected it to be chaotic. I came in knowing the lottery that Daytona is, and I was just going for it. So that's why I was trying to get us up front, and I figured the safest place would be up front, and it was until it wasn't.
Yeah, very well put there, man. But we head to Auto Club next week. A lot of guys looking forward to the first quote-unquote real track of the season. Is that sentiment good for you? Do you like that the Auto Club Speedway?
I love it. I love it. I love Auto Club, and yeah, the real season starts next week. Can't wait for it.
All right, we'll be ready and watching you then. Enjoy the rest of your night, man.
Thanks. You guys too. See ya.
Chris James out of the booth and seems to be in good spirits despite everything that happened. And I mean, I guess one way to look at it is, I mean, there really wasn't anything he could have done different. So no point really lamenting what could have been. Instead, just kind of looking forward to Auto Club. And he sounds pretty confident about it. He said he loves the track, and I agree. Auto Club is one fun racetrack, definitely one of my better racetracks on the service, and I think we're in for a good show when we do get to Auto Club. But things have been pretty tame for a little while now, Corey. It only took us 150 some odd laps to get to the point where things have calmed down, but really not a lot of drivers attempting to overtake in any significant way. Not too many moves being made. I think these guys are patient. The question is, when do they start getting impatient? Because obviously, from my perspective, I'm thinking, they're probably not going to get too aggressive until the very end of the race, because if they do have another pit stop, they're going to have to complete anyways. But then again, we said that before, Corey, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they just started getting aggressive.
Yeah, I think ultimately, as everyone knows, that there's one more pit stop, so there's really not too much of a reason to go crazy knowing that pit stop's in play. I think you make that pit stop, you do the best you can to execute, stay with the guys you went in with, and then once you learn, all right, here's who's left, you start making that game plan of, all right, how I have 2 guys that I'm working with, and I got 5 guys that I'm not. How are we going to make the best finish for the guys that we want to have up front? And you start making that plan and you go for it then. I think right now it's just a matter of just getting to the pit stop and just setting yourself up for that scenario.
Yeah, setting yourself up, that's a good way of putting it. You do have to kind of put yourself in a good position to kind of capitalize later. Obviously, Russell's in a pretty dang good position being in the lead, but really anybody in this lead pack, I would say, is doing pretty good for themselves, and they've got a pretty solid shot at it. Just got to keep their head on their shoulders, make sure they get a good pit road entry and exit, because, again, I think it's just one more stop that they're going to have to make, so At this point, we're getting to the stage in the race where if you make a mistake, there's not going to be very much time to try and compensate or make up for that. So you got to be flawless on the money stop.
Where else would you put your head other than on your shoulders? I know the sake of the analogy, I'm just like actually dissecting it.
Well,
do
I
people
can
put
think
their
of,
head in other? I guess actually.
I can think of a few places, but we're not
Okay.
allowed to say that, I don't think.
Oh yeah, fair enough. I wasn't thinking in that manner, but my brain, after 3 hours, your brain kind of starts to go crazy here. But
Ain't that the truth?
But all in all, I mean, if we're talking about, setting yourself up, if I'm like a Ralph Hutchison, who is last car on this, lead tango here, I may want to coordinate maybe with Schofield to try and maybe get double file so you're closer, because right now Hutchison's 2 seconds back. So if he makes a pit stop, he does have quite a bit of deficit to make up. So maybe you want to be a little bit closer, but at the same time, he'd have to coordinate a fair amount of guys to try to do that. I just don't think the help's going to be there for that right now.
Yeah, I have to agree there. And watching this lead pack, I'm noticing a little bit of separation start to form. Looks like Jason Taylor on the last lap had kind of fallen back and made it a 3-car breakaway. And then through the trial, he closed back in. I don't know if he was trying to stage a run at it or maybe just testing the water, seeing how much the draft could pull him forward. And then he just kind of is laying back again right there. You can see that separation once again, about 2 car lengths from 3rd to 4th. And then actually about another car length back to 5th from Jason Taylor. So these guys aren't really being too aggressive. They're not riding each other too close. They're just sort of doing their things, clicking off some laps. And, you think 3 hours is exhausting for us up in the booth. It's got to be even more exhausting driving these cars, which probably plays into just how much it's mellowed out over the course of this race.
Almost like convert. So myself and one of my other commentators, we always had a verbiage for plate tracks that we used where it's intensely boring, because you are on the wheel, you're white knuckle, you have to keep a very finite line, you're always on alert, but at the same time, you could be having a chat on Discord, you could be glancing over and checking the score on the game. I mean, some drivers will be texting, and to be honest, you can get away with that. You can't get away with that on other places, but at the same time, like I said, 2-3 wide, it is intense, but it doesn't also take the physical skill that maybe an auto club will take next week with all the bumps and getting loose and trying to stay off the wall and running all these different lanes. It's a completely different skill set, but still a challenging one, and one that you have to definitely get the knack for.
Yeah, you're not wrong, and I find that sometimes how quote unquote what was the term you used, intensely boring these races can be actually makes it a bit more of a challenge, because you get sort of, I want to say, a false sense of comfort. You're making laps, you feel like nothing could go wrong, and thus you're not really paying attention. That boredom kind of keeps you from building up any adrenaline and paying too much attention to what's going on around you. And then that opens the door to making mistakes. Maybe something happens and you don't quite react to it as quickly because you were kind of zoned out off in la-la land. I've definitely seen that a few times, and I've been a part of that a few times. So it's an interesting type of racing, that's for certain. As we do approach lap 160, our leader maybe got a little bit squirrely out of turn 4 there, but more or less just trying to get to this next pit stop and see what they can do from there. Kevin Steele did get up to 6th from 7th, so he passed somebody. I'm not sure when that occurred, but Sammy Borey also looking his way up the grid. He's now sitting 5th as opposed to 6th where he was before. So I do want to point out there is a car at the tail end of this that we haven't talked about all night long, and it is rare that we have not talked about this driver all night long. Adam Benefiel in the 83. So a former league champion, definitely one of the most talented drivers that I've seen come across the league. Always a competitor. Doesn't matter the
best
track.
interview in the series. Best interview in the series.
Best interview.
What is it? He pisses excellence, and what else is it? I can't remember the other line he always says.
That's the gist of it. But Adam Benefiel has been very quiet tonight. He's not really made any waves, but he's just been working his way up the grid. He's in the lead pack right now, and more importantly, He's got some teammates around. Kevin Steele is a teammate for Adam Benefield this season for Team Conti, and they're both in the same pack here. So when things do get intense, when these guys start shuffling around and deciding to make some moves, I would expect to see those two link up. Meanwhile, you got some other drivers up here who don't have that luxury. They're kind of off, on their own. RJ Root doesn't really have that many teammates around him. Matt White doesn't really have that many teammates around him. Then you also have to keep in mind here, John Delaney, Cameron Stone, Sean O'Brien Jr., those are all teammates, and they are currently all bumper to bumper. So we're going to have some interesting teamwork dynamics, I'd say, after this next pit stop.
Yeah, so, like, for example, just behind Adam Benefield's Randy Drumhiller in the Coleman car. And, when things get intense, I wonder who Drumhiller is going to camp with.
Okay.
that was like a 3-part pun there. You got to give me something. Coleman, intense, and camping. That was a trifecta there to start the season off strong. And you're stuck with me for the next 4 weeks. I'll be here for Auto Club, Vegas, Phoenix, and if you want to count today, and perhaps stragglers going on, we're kind of setting out our broadcast schedule here. So whether you like puns or not, you're stuck with them, folks.
And we're going to be working together in, I believe, Monday League. So puns abound, that's for certain.
Exactly. But pit window is open now, Andre. We're within 40 to go, which we haven't got a finite fuel window, but we've known that, for example, Root and Taylor, I can see on the back end data here that they are on their 40th lap on their stint. So by all means, it's available. So you do want to have enough for the green-white checker. I think we have, is it 3 white checkers? Question mark? Yeah, it is 3 here. I'm looking at the stats here. So you want to have enough maybe for 10 laps. I'd say you want to have 10 laps of fuel in the bank. So that being said, I would probably pit around lap 170, but I don't think everybody is going to have the ability to do that. So we'll see how it plays out. In fact, here we go right now.
We got 2 cars ducking into pit road. That's kind of unfortunate for those guys because
that's Princeton, who's 2 laps down. So, and Hodgson and Bird. So all of those were, not to say irrelevant, but not pertinent for the race.
And they're not really pitting with a large group, so I don't think things are going to get much better for them, unfortunately. But back to your point about waiting as long as possible to pit, I have to absolutely agree. That's what I would do in this situation because you have to expect at least 1 green-white checker. I think there's so many cars in this lead pack, so many drivers that are still in contention, that once things start to fan out, we see 2, 3 wide, I would wager that a caution is very likely within the last couple laps. So you do want some extra fuel. Some of these guys are going to have to try and save and then go as far as they can to make sure they do have that extra fuel. Like you said, some of these guys are already getting to the point where their cars are going to be sputtering pretty soon. So they got to keep that in mind. You do not want to run out of gas at a track like Daytona. If you run out of gas and you got to make a 2.5-mile trip around, that is going to be the longest 2.5 miles of your life.
Because if you're watching this live, which a lot of you are, if you did watch the Xfinity race, Josh Berry ran out of fuel towards the end because of the overtime. So a couple guys sputtered towards the end. So you want to have that buffer built in. But RJ Root, and I'm trying to see who else it was, but never mind that because here they come.
Big walk up.
We have 27 of Russell and John Delaney into the pit wall.
Oh my goodness!
Hickenbottom in the pit wall. Hickenbottom just incidented out, if there's such a word.
Incidented
out.
He is back in the garage,
but John Delaney pile drove the front of his, and then he missed his pits to boot.
Bad goes to worse.
The champion with the double failure. Do we have the Price is Right loser horn on standby, Carlos? We don't, but we'll get it for next week. So what did I talk about a little while ago? Your last pit stop, that's the one that matters. That's the one you need to nail. And surprising that our reigning league champion, 2 mistakes on the final stop.
Yeah, John was, what is it Carlos put up on screen? If gap car. Well, there was a gap. and there was a car, and
Replay on
unfortunately,
screen.
unfortunately, it did not end well, as you saw in that replay. He just came in a little bit hot. I don't think you can really blame anybody for that incident.
Yeah,
other
so
than,
he was reacting to the smoke he saw around him, and look at the shallow entry he had there, and he kind of got funneled into the pit wall by Damaris there. To no fault of Damaris, just he didn't expect the lady to go in there like a cannon out of wherever cannons come from. Yeah, that too. Bat out of hell, as Carlos saves me on.
Yeah, this is pretty big for Kevin Steele as well, because he was working with John Delaney. Now, John Delaney is not a teammate necessarily, but he is driving for a team owned by Kevin Steele. So that is why they were working so well together. And I think John was a big part of the speed that 7 had. Now, if he can get linked up with Cameron Stone, he can kind of minimize that loss of a teammate. And we know that those two work together really well as well. But I'm not sure where Cameron Stone is. Again, this bit rate is pretty bad. I can't see if he's in this pack, but timing and scoring doesn't show him in the top 10. So Kevin Steele just lost a lot of, let's say, draft help in that pit road incident.
Yep, he is he is in 7th now. He's working with Russell, who is 14 seconds behind our current lead 5, who have yet to pit. So actually, once they all shake out the way we expect, and pit stops happening now, Steele will be in 2nd to the JDR Graphics 27. And we just saw a pop out there, so that's Pat Mouche. Incidented it out.
So Patrick,
there has to be a better way to say that.
You would think.
Incidented out. There has to be a better way, but until I find it, I'm just going to struggle and say that word. But either way, for Pat Mouche fans, he is no longer.
I think the better way to say it would just be to say, he done did wreck too much.
There you go. We'll save that for Bristol when we head down, or Atlanta when we head to a south. Actually, we are down south, but we're not in a southern racetrack, even though we're down south. That does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get much more southern than Florida, at least for America. But
Carlos could chime in on this. We're down south, but are we down? But is Daytona down south, even though it's down south? It's not.
It's kind of like the opposite of Ohio.
All right.
Ohio is kind of...
Time out, guys. All right. So, from what I gather, is that when you're close to Miami, that's no longer south. But anything above Miami is south.
I just went to Disney 3 months ago, and I didn't hear a single southern accent down there, so I was not down south. It's like you're in you're in your own transported bubble. Florida doesn't exist. It's in its own bubble. It should be somewhere else. I'm a New Englander, so this is just how our brains work up here. But anyways, this is the digressions we do. But Alexander Russell in that 27, and again, another driver who has to be right on that incident cap, Andre, because he has been, I mean, at least in 2 incidents that I can remember. But here he is again in these tank cars. He has himself leading this race with Kevin Steele, who's trying to go for the perfect race, stage 1, stage 2, and the win. But Russell has to be in that position. But it also puts you in a spot where if you know, Andre, that your competitor is in a difficult position, do you give him a super big bum draft to try to give him a 2X and knock him out? I mean, it's really tacky to say, but it's doable.
It definitely is doable, and I'm going to be honest here, and I'm going to respectfully say that I don't necessarily agree with the admin's decision on lowering this incident limit. I think, number one, there's a lot of leagues that would absolutely kill to field 40 cars. The fact that this league is big enough to field 40 is very fortunate.
On a Saturday night.
On a Saturday night, yes. It is very fortunate. And I feel like this incident limit is kind of arbitrarily removing cars out of contention. We could be having a much larger lead pack that we could be watching right now. The show could be a lot more fascinating if some of these guys were still in contention. And in addition to that, like you said, Corey, if you have incident points to spare and somebody else doesn't, you could maybe kind of give them a cheeky bump draft, and there's really no way to prove that it was intentional.
I mean, if anybody, I mean, a lot of these drivers, we've heard it on our we have Pat Boucher in the infield care center. We'll get him in a second, but we've heard our broadcast echoing in the background. We know they're listening to us, so there may be someone who's like, I never thought of that, which in that case, whoops. but that being said, if you want to talk to Pat Boucher, we could drag him up here.
Patrick Boucher, you got a copy?
Yes, I do.
Well, Pat, you were one of many drivers tonight to get DQ'd with the fairly stringent incident limit. You said in the chat there that you kind of made a mistake earlier that accrued a few points and got you really close, and then that mistake getting into the pit sealed the deal. Tell me a little bit about your race leading up to this and your thoughts on the incident limit.
Yeah, the race is going pretty well. We got a fast car, just made too many mistakes, especially when there was a wreck in, I believe, stage 1 in the lead pack. Didn't check up fast enough and got a 4X from that and damaged me and Matt Long, so that ended up being what hurt me the most. And on the incident limit, I don't really know. I mean, most tracks it's good. I just feel like maybe the Super Speedway should just be like 1 4X higher, but besides that, I have nothing really against it.
Understandable. Now, next week we're going to be going to Auto Club, and a lot different style of racing there, of course. A lot of people would say the real season starts next week. Are you looking forward to Auto Club, or how you feel about it?
I'm not really looking forward to it. It's one of my least favorite tracks.
All right, you're one of the first to say that. Most people are really looking forward to it, so we'll see how that goes for you. But who are you watching in the race now that you're kind of on the sidelines? You got any teammates out there you're pulling for, or what's going on there?
Hoping Alex Russell wins. He's currently leading, but Kevin Steele, he's pretty good. He might win. He's been able to dominate the whole race so far, and he's in a perfect position to make a move.
Yeah, he's in the catbird seat, I would say, as are a few other drivers. But all right, Patrick, thank you for your time. We're sorry your race came to a bit of an early end there, and hopefully Auto Club doesn't go quite as bad as you're expecting it to. I think you're going to do pretty good there, but we'll see.
Hopefully, thank you.
The first one to, as you said, maybe he's going for a short track package this year. Maybe he's looking for a road package, and as obviously race number 1 Andre of this season. And I know last season there was, I think, one race that wasn't the exact duplicate. I think it was Road America that got subbed out for Rockingham, was it? But as far as I saw this season, we are 1 for 1 covering the schedule, even as much to go to the Chicago street circuit. So maybe Pat is looking forward to a different style of track this season.
Yeah, I know Pat is definitely fond of short tracks and road courses too. I think he's pretty fond of those. So we'll see what he's got in store this season. And it's just a shame to see him become another casualty of this incident limit, as so many drivers have. But this lead pack, they have, I believe, completed their pit stop. So really it's just going to be a straight up race to the end. You've got 1 through 6th all together, and then a huge gap back to Alex Murray in the 23.
Now the point of interest there is there are more cars in that second pack, which typically means they should be running faster, but in actuality, they're on average running about a 10th slower than our lead pack. Now that could be just not being close enough. That could be the setups not being good enough. Right now they are kind of separated as well, but if they can get, in a closer drafting configuration, I mean, there's a super low-end chance they might be able to get there, but the possibility is plausible if they can get closer.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some time. 23 laps takes a while at Daytona. We are going 2.5 miles each lap, and it's something like 47, 48 second lap time. So it's not out of the question, but they have not been gaining a whole lot. I don't know if Carlos can maybe pull up a relative from the leader of the second pack and then the last car in the next one. But at least from my perspective, kind of looking at the timing and scoring, if they've been making gains, it's been small. They have been making gains, but as I kind of estimated there, look at that, just hundredths and a few tenths at a time.
Yeah. This past, just crossing the stripe, a 16 for Russell to a flat for Russell, 46 flat to a 45, so 2/10. That's not going to be enough, but just looking at the live telemetry, it was over 5 seconds. Now it's, 4 3/4. So if they can chug 3/4 a lap, because Camp Stone, he is just beating the hell off the back bumper of Alex Murray there, and Schofield is doing the best he can behind him as well. So, and then it's just a matter of time up front, because those guys up front are eventually going to start racing. But let's look up front. If we could switch the camera back to the leaders, Carlos. We have some lappers who have tagged on to the lead draft, which will inherently speed that draft up and will significantly hurt the second pack's efforts.
And I just want to add, going back to that second pack, remember, they don't need to make up all 4 seconds. They only need to make up about 3 of them, because once they get within a second of that pack in front, the draft's going to do the rest of the work for them. So if they can get within 3, I would say about a second and a half, they have a good shot at it. So we'll wait and see. But you can see the lap time differentials there. They are still gaining ever so slowly, though. It's gonna have to be
Anderson, and who else is there? I think that was the 41. No, 41 is in the pack there. But yeah, Robert Anderson's in there, as well as somebody else dangling on. I think that's RJ Root there dangling on the end. But they're dangling off the leaders. But it was 4.7. It stayed about 4.7. They haven't seemed to beat that yet. Now, if they really wanted to get nice, maybe have one of them talk to RJ Root and, hey, do you want to back off and let us get there? I don't think he's going to do that. Or maybe have someone talk to Robert Anderson in the 5 and say, hey, we'll cut you a break later in the season. You want to help us catch up? But as it stands, I think it's pretty much a sealed deal as long as it stays as is.
Yeah, I would have to agree there, and that gap is growing again. So now,
but this is going to help because we're double file. This is going to slow everybody up with the side drafting and the parachute effect. So this will certainly help causes out if they stay side by side with those lappers for a little bit.
Whoa, my goodness. Aggressive move out of Kevin Steele to get underneath the number 27. He is going to push Russell out of the way and just muscle his way to the lead. Took advantage of that 3-wide situation, and now he's up to the point. There's one more lap car out front. But to your point, Corey, you're absolutely right. If these guys keep racing and keep shuffling positions, that is going to be a great opportunity.
That's a great Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor out.
Dalton Mobley, no caution yet.
Yeah, so Jason Taylor next on the was just chopped via the incidented system there. Replay on screen, 3-wide opportunity into a 2-wide hole there, and naturally that does not work. So we are down on 1, and through all of that, surprisingly, it actually caused the second pack to lose time. They must have reacted a little bit more safely than they maybe needed to, but yeah, they lost time in that one. I thought they would have gained quite a bit.
Yeah, I think they had to check up there because of all the smoke. They couldn't quite see what was going on, and now they are a little more than 8 seconds. Well, they were 8 seconds according to scoring and timing. Now they're 6 seconds back. They gained some positions from it. Obviously, Cameron Stone went from 8th up to 5th. Benefield went from 10th up to 6th, but they're not really close enough to do anything with this lead pack. Now, the one thing that did change is this lead pack has a lot fewer cars. You got Kevin Steele, Matt White, Sean O'Brien Jr., and then you got Russell just on the tail end. He should be able to catch up to those guys and make it 4 cars under a blanket.
I don't know. Actually, he has Baker there. Baker there is going to have to kind of play a liaison. But at that point, Russell might be off in no man's land.
Yeah, you might be right. He's losing a lot of time, and he might fall back to...
Yeah, he's in no man's land already. He's done. Stick a fork in it for Russell. He's done.
I gotta wonder if he maybe didn't get some damage from that. I mean, he's losing time even quicker than you normally would being out of the draft, unless he's intentionally trying to fall back. He knew he lost the draft, so he's just trying to get back to the second pack as quick as he can.
And here comes Cam Stone. Cam Stone leading that charge. He is closing in on Robert Anderson, who's a lap down, and he's going to be in whatever Mario going fast reference we want to bring up, but that the speed differential there is huge. He's going to go surge around the outside. That's Dustin Hall. They're going to squeeze 3 wide there off of 4, all the while trying to use the draft off of Russell to surge by and then gain the 4th spot. Is going to be Cam Stone here, and this is going to be all 6 3/4 seconds behind the leaders. The numbers are there, unfortunately. I just don't think the laps are, but we'll see what happens. It's only going to be the 3 drivers up front going for the lead. They can only go so fast with 3 cars, Andre, but I think time is on their side.
Yeah, 15 to go definitely means they're not going to have to play defense for as long as they would have. But, I mean, yeah, this gap, I mean, they're gaining. The second pack is gaining again, but it's not by much, just a couple tenths here and there. When it's 15 to go and you got a 6-second gap to overcome, I mean, you got to be making up half a second a lap at this point. And
But let me throw this at you, Andre. We talked about defense. Well, how do you, with 3 cars, how do you play offense right now? There's very little energy to play around with. I mean, you can, if you're White or O'Brien, you can back off and try to set yourself up for a run, but obviously Steele is going to be smart enough where if you back off and set yourself up, he's gonna back off and try to negate that. So it's kind of hard to play offense right now too, with such little energy, with such little cars up front right now.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. If you're going to pass more than 1 car, you need a ton of draft help. And even just passing 1 car, you're going to need somebody giving you a good shove. So it's going to be more difficult for anybody in that lead 3-car pack to really make a move, especially when there's really not much for anybody to gain. Let's say White in the 48 tries to jump out and make a pass for the lead. Does Sean O'Brien Jr. go with him when he could just link up with Kevin Steele and then move up to 2nd place and say, well, you know, you tried to move out to the outside lane and now you're going to get passed? It's not a great situation for those guys, but definitely I would say a better situation than being in a crazy hornet's nest like they were earlier in the race. It's just going to be, I think, mind games at this point, trying to get in each other's heads and make the move at just the right time. Because if you do mistime it, well, you're not going anywhere.
I think the best case scenario would be that White gets to the quarter panel of Steele, probably the right rear quarter panel. He can use the side draft, slow him down, basically pull door to door with him, which normally would give you a situation you might be able to sneak him at the start finish. You won't clear him, but you might be able to drag race him to the line. But the elephant in the room at that situation is, what does O'Brien do? Is he going to go with someone specifically? Is he going to try to set up a 3 wide? Or as you said, is he just going to say, hey, 2nd's better than 3rd, so is what it is? Ultimately, as we talk about this, the gap back to 4th and so on is really stagnated about 6.5 seconds.
Yeah, and that gap is just not changing quick enough for them to really be hopeful.
Well, actually, just as we say that, it went from 6.5 to 6.3 essentially in a sentence there.
Yeah, now 5 points. What's going on here? They just gained like half a second.
Yeah, there's 6 of them. So they need, last time by a 46.1 for Stone, a 46.45 for Steele, so 3/10. If they could start running, 45.6s, 45.7s, which is possible, they'll get there, but I just don't think they have the amount of cars they need to run those laps right now.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, 5.7 now. They're definitely gaining, but only when they're linked up. You can see it's fluctuating. See, on lap 188, they're actually slower. They've got to be on each other's bumper, and they got to be lined up. They can't be doing this swerving thing that they're doing. I always said it's kind of like trying to draft a caterpillar when people want to swerve back and forth, and that just don't work. So 5.6 now, still gaining. I don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill, but if they could just link up, I feel like it's possible.
Yeah, what they're trying to do is they're getting a run, and instead of pushing and just being aggressive with it, they're trying to kind of go out of line and negate the run without having to back off. But when you pull out a line like that, you're kind of inadvertently creating a side draft, which is, you're creating a parachute effect while you're not attempting to. And that's really what's slowing them down right now. But huge surge there through 3 and 4 there. They gained a second in the middle of the backstretch just through 3 and 4. So if they could keep that up, they are going to have a kind of a rubber band AI in the middle here, if you want to say that. They're going to be able to suck up on, can't quite make out who that was. That might gain them. Actually, they're not going to take advantage of that. Dalton Mobley, that is. I would have been snaking and trying to get every whiff of draft off of that 77, but they just went straight around him.
And again, remember, they don't need to make up all 5 seconds. They need to make up about 4 seconds, because once they get within about a second and a half, draft does everything for them. You can see that last time by, it was half a second faster. So that's how, I mean, you know they can be faster, but it just takes such an amount of coordination. I'm not sure they can do that every single lap. I think you're going to continue to see that fluctuation, Corey.
But then you're using the patience factor of everybody in the second pack. There's going to be a point where the people in the second pack are going to say, you know, we're not going to get there. I want to get the best finish I can. You know, you have a Russell there in 8th. You know, if he sees a 4th on the table and he knows you're not going to get the leader, they might start racing and kind of hit the abort button and, you know, further negate any chance. So I think that, to be honest, is probably going to happen within a couple laps, where they're just going to battle amongst themselves, realizing they're probably not going to get there.
Yeah, I mean, the last time by, it more or less stagnated. They didn't really gain anything. Now they're going to maybe... Oh, no, I can't tell if that's a 4 or a 6.
They're really making time from the middle of the back through 3 and 4. They just... I don't know what it is. I don't know what's in the water over there, but they gain so much time on the back end of the lap. Might be a telemetry deal, but I don't know.
Yeah, it could just be that's when it updates, or maybe they really are just faster through that portion. But then again, 0.4 of a second that lap. If they could just keep doing that, I mean, they're in the game. But you keep having these laps every so often, like lap 192, where it's stagnated to basically nothing, and they can't afford that. It's 7 laps to go. This race is winding down.
Do you want to reference a chat we got a little bit ago that someone says that Shawnee OB, referencing obviously the 24 car, doesn't have the cojones to take the win away? Looks like the message I'm deciphering, so I'll see how valid that ends up being, as that trio is doing the best they can to keep that lead and give themselves the opportunity to battle amongst themselves. So they'd rather battle as a trio than as a big, huge pack, which still has a loose possibility to be the case.
So it was another 0.2 to the second pack, and they're down to about 4.6 seconds roughly. Again, not making up enough time as it stands. They need a few more laps, like lap 191, where they were half a second faster. If they could do that, they'd be right there. But I think the race right now, for all intents and purposes, it is going to be a 3-horse race. Sean O'Brien Jr., Matt White, Kevin Steele, any of those drivers definitely have a chance at it, and it's not a long shot. Anybody in the second pack, it is a huge long shot. We're kind of, trying to come up with hypothetical situations where, oh, they might catch up here, they might catch up there. But these 3 cars up front, there's no hypotheticals here. It is all out racing for the checkered flag. Question is, who's going to make the move? Now, one thing to keep in mind as well, Sean O'Brien Jr. is not teammates with Kevin Steele, but he's a driver on Kevin's team that he owns. So if Matt White were to make a move and step out, I don't think that Sean O'Brien Jr. is going to go with him. I think he's going to go with the Boston man.
But it's the Daytona 500. At what point do you throw that away because it's the Daytona 500?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good point. But also, I don't know. I mean, Sean O'Brien Jr., he's kind of loyal to his team and to his owners. He's not really the kind of guy.
I mean, this isn't the rinky-dink 250 at Hicksville Speedway. This is the Daytona 500. You got to go for it, man.
Hey, now, don't discount the rinky-dink 250 because I've won 6 of them, okay?
I feel like I'm going to get hit for that in chat. But they've got to now basically 4 seconds flat. I mean, we're trying to TNT. We know drama. I mean, we're trying to strum a... What's your saying? You're trying to strum up drama? A mole out of a anthill? Is that... I don't know.
Out of a molehill?
Yeah, whatever it is, we're trying to strum up drama, but it's 3.5 seconds. I mean, this is really turning into be a last second deal here. They're going to have one more slow car to try to strum off of here and try to use as a bridge. And I think that bridge is it going to be long enough? I think it's going to be a tiny bit short. There's another pack ahead of our leaders too. That's going to give them a little bit of boost too. 3.5 seconds, 2.5 laps to go. When do the leaders start battling? Does that slow them up? I think we have drama. It's like we don't have drama and we do have drama at the same time right now.
I think Pat put it right in chat just a second ago. They got organized too late. They have been flying these last few laps, but might be too little too late. 3 seconds ago, 3 laps remaining. Now going to be 2 laps as Kevin Steele crosses the line to just 2 more circuits. I don't think they're going to be able to catch him on speed now. That is pretty much set in stone. That was no pun intended, but we'll take it.
Oh wow. But at the very least, what does this mean for that second pack? They learned how to run a fast single file draft. So what do? You put it in the notebook and you use it at Talladega. So at the very least, you learn something out of this deal.
Yeah, you could use it at Talladega. You could use it at the Coke 400 or the Pepsi 400, I should say. Or you could use it in the Rinky Dink 250. You have Kevin Steele.
Or at Atlanta in a couple weeks.
That is true. That is also a super speedway now. But it is going to be Kevin Steele on his way to the white flag. The question is, who's going to make the move? Now, if I'm Matt White right now, I'm going to be backing off that bumper of the 7. I'm letting him get as far out as I possibly can so that I can stage a run at it. Maybe get some help from Sean O'Brien Jr., but right now, it doesn't seem like that's what he wants to do. He wants to be on the bumper of the 7. He is pushing him through the corner. I don't know. You mentioned earlier, Corey, that they have to be able to have numerous cars to be able to make the move successfully, to be able to get that draft. And right now, they just don't have the numbers. They got some lap traffic.
Full tandem. They're dropping O'Brien. Full tandem now. 2, 3, and 4.
Now, this could be good for Sean, though. He's dropping back a ways. Maybe he can stage a run at it. The 48 trying to push the number 7. He's going to get him loose.
He's going to pull a side draft game. It's going to be a drag race to the line. This is the finish to the Daytona 500. Who's going to get it? Contact side draft. It's going to be White. Got it.
Matt White in the 48 at the last second times it perfect. He dives to the outside, nails the side draft, and by half a car length, 0.04 of a second, is going to claim his first Daytona 500 in 100% Cup Series history, leaving a heartbroken Kevin Steele, who led the majority of the race. And Sean O'Brien Jr., who just mistimed his move, is going to finish 3rd.
He took shades of Kevin Harvick at Talladega, where we said, when was he going to make the move? And what did Larry Mack say? He timed it perfectly and managed to get it by half a car length there. He tandem, they threw O'Brien out to pasture, and he had the move. He wanted to have space so that he could make that move and not have to worry about O'Brien. He executed perfectly, gets himself a Daytona 500, and here he comes onto the front straightaway, and we'll see what he does in celebratory fashion.
Just going to throw that thing around sideways. The competitors pulling down pit road. They're headed back to the hauler, but Matt White is headed to victory lane. A thrower in reverse, and there goes the lawn, although I think that grass was already torn up.
It's the last race of the season. They don't care if you mess it up now. The last race of the speed weeks. Last race of speed weeks. That's really only about 5 days.
I was going to say, that's one short season.
Yeah, it's a one-race season, folks. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in 2024, but in all seriousness, congrats to Matt White. We will park it on the fence here, and we have our race results here on the screen.
It is Matt White taking home the race win. Kevin Steele, P2. Sean O'Brien Jr. brings it home 3rd. Cameron Stone in 4th with the top 5 there. Alex Murray, and then Adam Benefield, P6. Jim Schofield is going to finish in 7th in the 47 car. Then you got Raymond Root after a very up-and-down night, involved in a couple incidents, led a few laps, ultimately brought it home inside the top 10. P8 for R.J. Root. Mark Paget, another driver involved in a few incidents. He's going to round it out in 9th, and then Randy Drumhiller, P10.
All right, and 11th is Sammy Bury. Ralph Hutcherson, a quiet run in 2nd. John Delaney had some good speed, some mistakes, relegated him to 13th. Tanner Marty in 14th. Robbie Keneally in 15th. Alexander Van de Sant in 16th. Alexander Russell in contention there to the very end. He will settle for 17th. And then rounding out our top 20 is Robert Anderson, Jason Baker, and Cody Bird. Interesting race for him, but still salvages a top 20.
And looking a little bit further back from 20th, You have Devin Medeiros P21. He was the last car 1 lap down. Then you get to drivers who are 2 laps down plus. Alex Princeton in the number 9, P22. Nolan Hodgson, 23rd. Dalton Mobley, 24th. Kyle Lamon, P25. Dustin Hall had a incident-fraught night, and he's going to bring it home, P26. Behind Dustin Hall, it's going to be Matt Long. Jason Taylor, in that late race incident, loses a lot of track position and a lot of points, 28th for Jason Taylor. Lucas Hoitzma with an internet disconnect 19 laps ago. Had to take it to the garage prematurely, finishes 29th. And 30th is going to be Patrick Michet.
Everybody else was out very early, well, relatively early in the race. Damaris Hickenbottom, 31st. Dylan Kritz, 32nd. Clayton Hoffman, 33rd. Chris James in 34th, excuse me. Remember, he had a great run earlier on, but didn't end well. Jeremy Miller had that very interesting spin in turn 3, took out a couple people. 35th for him. And then rounding out our grid, Michael Christopher, Boyd Hagen, Robert Miller, Brandon Pierce, and Christopher Hammond rounds out the field.
All right, it is time to get into some interviews. I'm going to pull up 3rd place Sean O'Brien Jr. Let's see what he has to say. Sean O'Brien Jr., you got a copy?
Hello, Senor Andre.
Well, Sean, it was a 3-horse race there at the end. I noticed you kind of backed off, maybe trying to get a run, and it just never really came to fruition. Walk me through the last few laps.
Yeah, after that wreck with Jason, which somehow wasn't yellow. Don't know about that, how that happens. But yeah, it was just the 3 of us, and we were rolling around, we were riding around, and I was getting ready to push Kev whenever Matt made his move. But as soon as they took that white flag, I mean, Matt just hooked up with him like it was 2011. They just took off. I mean, I had that thing floored, and there's just nothing I could do. And the tandem, it's like 2011, the tandem in these cars, and they just drove away. Kev's mad at me because he didn't even know that they broke away from me. He thought I was still right behind him, so he was expecting the push from me once Matt pulled out, but I was 2 seconds back. But that's whatever. Happy to get a top 3, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely some drivers that fared a lot worse tonight, and a good start to the season, grabbing yourself a decent points day, and got some stage points, I believe, earlier as well. Next week, we're going to Auto Club, so kind of a different form of racing. How do you feel about going to the 2-mile speedway?
I feel pretty good. The Black Flag / Apex guys, we always do good when we go to those big speedways, Auto Club, Michigan. Last year, I was running the top 5, and then late, he who shall not be named somehow money shifted with a sequential transmission and cost me that there. But I look forward to it. I love those big tracks where you can run any lane, you know, multi-groove racing. It's always fun.
Absolutely. Well, again, congratulations on the podium. Before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Oh, yeah. Everyone at Apex, Cam, John, Jason, Kev, we're having fun the whole race in the chat. Like to give a shout out to our fallen brother, Bryson Nixonbaugh. He will never be forgotten.
Hashtag free Bryson Nixonbaugh. Again, thank you for your time, Sean, and we'll catch you next week.
God bless you, Andre.
I would just like to point out that his Discord avatar was Mike Joy with a gun.
It was, and it's fantastic. I love it. All right, well, Corey, I'm going to hand you Kevin Steele. Let's see what second place has to say.
Well, Kevin, I don't really know what I want to say to you now because you dominated the first stage, you dominated the second stage, and you lost it by a matter of about 4 feet there. And he timed it, as Larry Mack said to Kevin Harvick, he timed it perfectly, and unfortunately not in your favor, man. Just talk about how that last lap played out. What did you think was going to happen, and did you have any defense planned?
Well, yeah, the defense was I had Sean O'Brien there in 3rd, and we were gonna stay together no matter what. But Matt played it perfectly, pushed me out in front, and got to the point where Sean was nowhere near us, and you know I expected Sean to be there, which is my fault. I should have looked at the relative, but I guess I had my hands full. But yeah, he made the move. I didn't really do anything to defend it because I was hoping Sean would be there. But no, Matt played a really good race. We worked together a little bit in the first stage. So the idea there after green flag stops was I wanted to get Alexander Russell out of the way because I didn't know who he would work with. You know, nothing against him. He was good to work with when we were with him, but I didn't know who he would go with at the end. So I wanted to get that out of the way early. I figured Matt would push there till the last lap. But yeah, congrats to Matt, man. It's been a long time coming. He's had a lot of strong runs in this league, and it's good to see him get a win. And I can't be too bummed. With the dual win and the 2 stage wins, I mean, I got so many points this weekend. This was such a good race. So
yeah, it's hard to go perfect at a plate race, but you very nearly did. And just quickly, one more question for you. Just talk about the dynamic of what you guys had to face that last run. You probably were looking in the relative, wondering, all right, is that second pack going to catch us? And then you realize they're not going to catch them. They're not going to catch you. And then you just have to worry about, well, what is this kind of threesome up front? What are they going to do? Just kind of talk about maybe the talks you were having and the mentality you had that whole last run as you kind of saw everything play out.
Yeah, I knew we were in a really good spot after the pit stop. First off, I could have sworn I sped coming into pit road. I had them locked up and I entered way too quick. I passed like 3 people, but I didn't get a speeding penalty, so that was great. That put me in awesome track position to be in second there when everything cycled out. And yeah, at that point, I think the group behind was 4 seconds back, and it's just watching, you know, trying to keep an eye on that gap while keeping an eye on your temperature. It's tough there pushing, you know, you want to push as much as you possibly can, but the temps do get, you know, really close. And with, you know, 20 or 30 laps to go, I didn't want to run in the red too much and damage the motor. So it's just a lot of management. And that second group got organized. I think twice they made pushes to get to us and made up a couple seconds on us. But with like 3 to go, I knew they weren't going to make it to us. So at that point, it was just the 3 of us there.
Yeah, it was, man. And, you know, you lost by a few feet, but as you said, all in all, good speed weeks for you, and you got a lot of playoff points. Any final shout-outs before we let you go?
Yeah, I think shout out to my parents for watching. Hopefully they got to see the new number 7 up front for most of that race, and it was so much fun. And huge shout out to Jason Moneybags Taylor. Hired him on Apex Racing, getting that team back together for this year, and I knew I needed somebody like Jason for his loyalty and his skill as far as building the car. I know he's going to be a good leader for that team, and this car was the best car I've ever driven at a plate track. It was so fast and it was so planted. I could be as aggressive as I wanted to be. I could put it wherever I wanted. I could push. I could get pushed. It was absolutely perfect. So huge shout out to Jason and all the guys over there at Apex. We work pretty well together. And then the new team with Team Conti and with Kyle and Dustin and Adam, we work pretty well together today too. And I'm excited. Just all around really excited for this season. I think I got a really good group of guys surrounding me, and I'm looking forward to it. And after such a horrible year last year, this is actually having fun and looking forward to iRacing. So I'm excited. So and thank you guys for putting it on. Thanks to Morris for everything that he does, and yeah, I'm happy.
All right, man. That's what it's all about, man. We'll catch you soon. Congrats again.
All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.
And now Andre has caught up with our race winner, Matt White.
Matt White, you got a copy?
I got a copy. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good, but I think you're doing a little bit better. You are a Daytona 500 winner. That was quite a showing, Mr. White. I tell you what, in those last few laps, we up in the booth, we're watching that 3-horse race, and we're saying, all right, well, we know Sean O'Brien Jr. is going to work with Kevin Steele. They kind of got the team relations, and that means Matt White's kind of all on his own. But you made the smart move. You pushed Kevin Steele so far ahead of Sean that Sean couldn't help his teammate. I mean, he was out of it. Once you pushed Kevin Steele, a second up the road. I mean, there was nothing he could do. And you pulled out, you timed it perfectly. It was perfect. Tell me a little bit about your race and the end of the race there.
I mean, like from the beginning, this thing unloaded super fast. We made a lot of ground up during speed weeks. We showed speed early. We led a couple laps. We, were kind of up front for the bulk of it there, and then the pit stop shaked it out. And yeah, once kind of the pack kind of fell off, no caution, and then another no caution wreck there with like I want to say 30 to go, where they kind of made it a 3-horse race. It was game on, and I was kind of saving a little bit of extra those last 2 laps. That's why they made a big run at us, the second pack. So I had enough heat just to make it just between me and Kevin, and Kevin raced me like pure class.
Yeah, that was a very clean finish. Oftentimes at these plate tracks, you see a lot of door banging and fender rubbing, but you guys, I mean, it was completely clean, no contact, just side draft back and forth, and ultimately, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot that Kevin could do to really defend against that move. Now, was that always your plan to make that move right where you did coming out of the corner, or was it just kind of okay, this feels right, I'm going to jump out now?
Yeah, so that was kind of the move about 15 to go, when it was just going to be us 3, and we're always going to utilize the 3 cars that we had there to make sure we kept in front. But yeah, saved enough air on my nose and then pulled away. And on the last lap, I was like, all right, I'm going to go high. I'm going to just side draft him by. And if he blocks, I'm going to cross him over. And whoever's got the best car is going to win.
Yeah, and your car was definitely a rocket ship. I mean, all night long, we were watching you up front, duking it out with the leaders and showing that you definitely had a car that could win. And then you proved that it absolutely could. Now, coming off the high of a Daytona 500 win, we're going into Auto Club next week. How you feeling about a 2-mile speedway?
Same thing. I mean, we're just going to bring the fastest stuff we can. Execution. That's another big thing that was really put us in position tonight, is just executing on pit road, no speeding, no contacts, just execute.
And that was kind of the key tonight, was just to execute and to be consistent. One of the things we were talking about a lot in the booth was the relatively low incident limit. It was 13x before somebody got completely dinged out of the session. Was that something that was on your mind during the race, and you were kind of being extra careful not to accrue any points, or was it something you weren't even really too focused on?
Yeah, so obviously, staying out of the incidents is really really keen with the low incident limit. 13, I think, is plenty. It keeps the slam car that this can be sometimes down to a minimum. I was pushing Robert there for a little bit, and I hooked him, and he went down on the inside. Got a 4X after that, and I feel really bad for him. It was not intentional, but from then on, it was just about staying as clean as possible. And this league, bar none, one of the cleanest leagues out there. So if you keep your head on straight, you can have no incidents, no problem.
And so I got to ask, you mentioned staying clean is the key, and I fully agree. But at a track like Daytona, it can be tough to stay clean. I mean, it's so unpredictable. What was kind of your strategy, and where did you like to place yourself in the field where you felt safe?
I felt the safest in the top, in the line, the top 10, or at least the top 10 on the bottom. Overall, anywhere in that line, maybe 5th or 6th probably was where I was the most comfortable, just because if there was a checkup or a wreck, it's mostly behind me, and then if we get a small breakaway, we're still in that lead pack, so at the end of the night we can do something with it.
Makes sense to me. Well, again, congratulations on the win. Possibly the biggest win that anybody can get in the league is a Daytona 500 win, other than a championship, of course. But hey, you're going to have a shot at that because you're locked into the playoffs now with this win as well. So what a fantastic start to the season. Before we let you go, Matt, is there any shout outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, 100%. I just want to thank my guys at Nitro. Thank SBR. Nitro Racing Setups, they have put on absolute heaters this last, a couple months. I want to thank Zeem Setup Shop for being on board. I want to thank just the league itself. Cedar Canyon Plumbing, a friend of mine, he owns that company, for being on board. Like, we put a lot of time into this car, into this league to get going every week.
All right. Well, again, congratulations, and thank you for your time, Matt.
Thank you so much, Andreas. Pleasure.
Matt White out of the booth, and Very excited, obviously, Corey. You could hear it in his voice, and rightfully so. It's a big race, a big win, and such a load off your shoulders, I think, this early in the season, knowing that you're locked into the playoffs and knowing that, hey, if something happens next week or really any of the next 20 weeks, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, because unlike what we saw in the real world last year, where it did come down to the very end, where there were almost more winners than there were spots. I don't think we're going to see that with how competitive some of these guys are. So to have that off your chest already, knowing the varying schedule we have, we're going to a street circuit, we're going to all these different tracks that you don't go to quite often. Having that off your chest early and being able to experiment the rest of the season, definitely going to be some good news for Matt White.
That it is, and that is going to do it for our post-race coverage here of the Daytona 500 for the 100% Cup Series. Join us next week for some 2 Mile Speedway action at Auto Club. Maybe one of the last times you'll ever be able to see these guys take to that track, as in real life that track is scheduled to be removed from the NASCAR circuit. So as this league does follow NASCAR's schedule, we may not go there after this year. So if you want to see a awesome track, tune in next week, and we hope you enjoyed this Daytona 500. Very exciting finish, in my opinion. I've been Andre Grambush, joined alongside Corey Silva, and of course, producer Carlos Costa, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. We will see you next week.